Chapter 970. But from the perspective of the market, I don't know if it will sell well. Zheng Yu just shrugged and said to Poplar Fruit, the prose market is in a slump right now. Plus, you're writing about realistic subjects. Zheng Yujia saw how happy Poplar Fruit was, so she decided to pour cold water on him and let him see reality clearly. Yang Guo had some understanding of this. Although he didn't look at the market reports, from his extensive reading, he more or less knew which books were selling well and which weren't selling well. I know, Poplar Fruit smiled and nodded. But I still want to try this book. It's very important to me. There's another important factor. Zheng Yujia hesitated and continued. You know, we're different now. We don't have as many channels as we did in Dongxin. We've just established ourselves in the foreign market. The domestic market is in a state of temporary stagnation. We only have the resources from the original publishing house that we bought. It's very, very small. Zheng Yujia said to Poplar Fruit without hesitation. The last time I went to America with you, I wanted to use Ms. Monroe's book to open up the foreign market. Zheng Yujia said, but not now. It might be in the second half of the year, or maybe next year. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, I know. So, if you want to publish a book and sell well, I can help you find a better publishing house. Zheng Yujia was a little reluctant, but for Poplar Fruit's sake, she could only say this. No need. Poplar Fruit shook his head and said with a smile, I'm not writing to make a lot of money. If I want to make money, I can just do a few translations. Why take the risk? It's writing. I want to see if anyone likes my hard work and see if there's anything lacking in my writing. Poplar Fruit said confidently, even if this book doesn't sell well, I'll continue to write until I can reach or even surpass Mr. Mo Yin and Grandma Monroe's standards. Results are the best proof of your abilities. Zheng Yujia rolled her eyes and said, if we can't sell it, how do you know if your writing is good or not? I think it's better to leave it to you. Poplar Fruit smiled, revealing his white teeth, and said gently, Amazon is enough. Don't the netizens in our country buy books through Amazon? The two of them argued for a while. In the end, Zheng Yujia couldn't win against Poplar Fruit. All right. If you want your book to fail, then give it to me. Zheng Yujia grabbed the USB flash drive that Poplar Fruit placed on the table and snorted. She accepted Poplar Fruit's book. Although she was happy that Poplar Fruit trusted her, she didn't let him off easily and even said a sentence in Cantonese. Poplar Fruit chuckled and didn't say anything. On the other hand, Zheng Yujia began to think for Poplar Fruit. I watched the video of your presentation, Zheng Yujia said. However, she didn't want to praise Poplar Fruit. Didn't you use a lot of photos on your PowerPoint? Go back and take a look to see if there are any suitable illustrations for your book. Some more direct photos can make your writing more appealing, Zheng Yujia said skillfully. Plus, readers will only be motivated to continue reading when they see pictures. Poplar Fruit nodded and wrote it all down. After they finished talking about work, Poplar Fruit only drank half of his coffee. However, he raised his hand and looked at his watch. Then he scratched his head and said to Zheng Yujia, it's late. I have to go. Hee, you heartless person. Zheng Yujia deliberately smiled coldly and said unhappily, you came out to meet me, and after you finished talking about business, you threw me away, right? Although she was mostly acting, Poplar Fruit felt that Zheng Yujia had been wronged at her heart. She just took the opportunity to vent it out. Poplar Fruit scratched his head and explained, if I had time, I would also want to sit down and finish this cup of coffee. But I don't have time. Bebe has a driving test, and it's almost over. I have to go. Stop. Zheng Yujia gestured for him to stop. She snorted and said, don't mention her to me. I'm busy. I'm not in the mood to listen. Poplar Fruit looked at her with a bitter smile. Let's go. Zheng Yujia put on her sunglasses and waved her hand. Then, she stood up with her bag and said coldly, I don't want to waste time with you. I'm free anyway. I can go shopping and buy some clothes. After she finished speaking, she swaggered off, and a wisp of red smoke swept across her eyes. Yanghua and Chi-Chi had just paid the bill and went out when they saw Zheng Yujia's new Porsche roaring in front of them. She didn't even stop. I accidentally provoked her again. Poplar Fruit looked at the car driving past and shook his head slightly. There was really no way. Poplar Fruit had been very careful to deal with the subtle situation between him and Zheng Yujie. But Zheng Yujie actually had such a big reaction to Fong Beibei. There was no way around it, so why bother? Kiki wants to go ice skating. Kiki hugged her father's thigh, turned around happily, and poked the big bag at her father's hand. Zheng Yujie had given her roller skates, the kind for children, a full set of helmet, gloves, knee pads, and other protective equipment. Although Kiki had never played ice skating before, she had been envious when she saw that her little brother had it at Poplar Fruit's house. Today, she was completely overjoyed. Let's go. Let's pick up Sister Beibei and then go home. Poplar Fruit smiled, picked up Kiki, and walked to the parking lot. In fact, Zheng Yujie's jealousy was not terrible. The next time they met, she would still get along with Poplar Fruit normally. Poplar Fruit was worried and had a headache, but Fong Beibei's jealousy was a headache. Although it was much better than before, she couldn't help but pretend that she didn't care and asked about the meeting between Poplar Fruit and Zheng Yujie. Poplar Fruit was magnanimous and naturally told her clearly. However, there was no need to tell her that Zheng Yujie was jealous. My book will be published by New Translation Road. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, I'm thinking about whether I should translate it into English myself. Anyway, our foreign market still has a lot of potential. Fong Beibei sat in the back seat, casually watching Kiki playing with her roller skates. Is this her birthday gift to Kiki? Fong Beibei asked. Before Poplar Fruit could answer, Kiki excitedly said to Sister Beibei as if she was presenting a treasure. Auntie gave it to Kiki. Kiki can also skate. Why did she give this kind of thing? Fong Beibei looked at Kiki's happy face and felt a little jealous. She said sullenly, Kiki is still so young. It's very dangerous to play this. Kiki immediately became alert. She protected the roller skates, pouted her small mouth, and said, It's not dangerous. Kiki is not dangerous. Poplar Fruit secretly wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said, It should be fine. We'll keep a close eye on her. Kiki, you're not allowed to play with roller skates when Dad and Sister Beibei are not around. Do you understand? Chapter 971. Today, Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei went to purchase furniture. It was rare that Kiki didn't come along. Poplar Fruit had sent her to her grandparents' house, as the two elders also missed their child. Although she wasn't their biological granddaughter, after gradually accepting this fact, Fong Jingji's parents also liked the cute and well-behaved Kiki very much. Originally, they wanted Poplar Fruit and Fong Jingji to go home to play once a week. Later, they were too busy, so they changed it to going home at least once a month. The reason why they chose to purchase furniture today was that the new house had finally been renovated last week. After opening the door and windows for a week to disperse the odor, most of the formaldehyde and other harmful gases had probably been removed. After purchasing the furniture and installing it, they could really move into the new house. Today, there is a furniture exhibition at the Pazho Exhibition Hall. Although most of the people are not doing it for large orders, if you see something you like, you can talk to the boss. They should sell it to us. Poplar Fruit said to Fong Beibei with a smile as he drove. Hey, I was wondering why you were so confident before coming. Fong Beibei sniffed her delicate nose and said reproachfully, It turns out that you didn't find it in advance. You still want us to choose slowly. When they arrived at their destination, Poplar Fruit led Fong Beibei to the entrance of the exhibition hall with ease. He proudly introduced, Baby, you definitely didn't expect that I used to work part-time here, right? Of course, how could I not? Fong Beibei hugged Poplar Fruit's arm, looked around curiously, and said, Don't all the undergraduate students in your college come here to work as stalls? I'm not a bookworm, so how could I not know? No. How could I be at this level before? I couldn't even work as a stalls if I wanted to. Poplar Fruit shook his head. He didn't avoid arousing suspicion, so he smiled and revealed his history. Then what are you doing here? Fong Beibei asked curiously. She jumped forward with a smile, then walked backward toward Poplar Fruit with her hands behind her back. Do you sell boxed lunches? Hey, I didn't have the brains to do that back then. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, You don't say. You might actually make money from selling boxed lunches. Did you see them? Poplar Fruit pulled Fong Beibei over, secretly pointed to the front, and said, I used to send flyers like them, 100 yuan a day. Wow, that's a lot. Poplar fruit, not much. I spent 30 to 40 RMB on distributing leaflets, buying water, and lunch. It's a hard work. Yang was said to her, you can't just stand in one place and give out flyers, especially in places with a lot of people. The security guards will chase you away. We often wandered around the venue, and when we arrived at a place, we would send a flyer. However, it's better to be mentally tired than physically tired. Really, when we send flyers, we have to bow and scrape, and we even have to endure the looks of disdain from people. Poplar Fruit spoke calmly, as if he was talking about someone else's affairs. But Fong Beibei could read the sadness and nostalgia in his eyes, so she held his hand. When they passed by the few people that Poplar Fruit had pointed out, Poplar Fruit took a flyer from each of them, then held it in his hand without looking at it, and only threw it away when they were far away. Poplar Fruit hugged Fong Beibei's shoulder tightly, and said with a smile, I've sent flyers before. Later on, I developed a habit of not rejecting the flyers they handed over. Although I didn't help them cheat, taking their flyers was a form of respect for their hard work. Fong Beibei suddenly felt that the Poplar Fruit at this moment was very charming. This wasn't the charm of a mature and steady person, nor was it the charm of an experienced storyteller. It was the charm of a simple person who didn't forget the hard times of the past, even after the riches. As they chatted, Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei slowly looked at the rows of furniture on display, and from time to time, they would ask about the price. Although it wasn't necessarily something that they liked, they could understand a market price, so that it would be easier for them to bargain when they saw something that they liked. Uncle, there's a Mediterranean-style store over there. Fong Beibei's eyes were sharp, and she immediately saw the signboard of the store in the middle of the next exhibition hall. This store really focused on the Mediterranean style, and from the decoration of the booth, it was a strong Apennine Peninsula style. Let's go and take a look. Fong Beibei excitedly dragged Poplar Fruit's hand, and the two of them passed through the other booths that they didn't like and went directly to the booth of this furniture store. It's really not bad. Poplar Fruit patted Fong Beibei's shoulder and only showed it to her. He smiled and said, Look at that table and chair. It was a very unique forged iron round table, surrounded by 4 iron chairs, 2 long and 2 short, that could be sat around. Moreover, it was plain white, which was very suitable for the color of their balcony. Why did Poplar Fruit take a fancy to these iron chairs at first glance? That was because the balcony of the hotel he stayed in Ba Li had similar benches, which were very suitable for the balcony. When family and friends came over, they could sit here, bathe in the sun or the stars, and talk freely. This table is also not bad. Fong Beibei was also very happy. She pulled Poplar Fruit and pointed it out to him, saying, Uncle, do you remember the photos I showed you? It's this table, and it's different from the ones in China. The legs of the table are like this, and there are 4 chairs, just enough for a family to sit together and eat. Where did these 4 people come from? Poplar Fruit smiled and whispered in Fong Beibei's ear, There are only 3 people in our family now. If we want to gather enough people, you have to allow me not to wear that thing at night. Fong Beibei's cheeks immediately turned red, and even the tips of her ears were red. She secretly pinched Poplar Fruit's waist and said shyly and angrily, You wish. I'm just preparing for a rainy day. No matter how mischievous they were, many of the furniture on the booth were really in line with Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei's expectations. The more they looked at it, the more they liked it. Just as they were about to ask the person in charge of the booth for an inquiry, the boss of the booth jumped out first. Poplar Fruit? Are you really Poplar Fruit? The young boss, who looked to be in his 30s, looked surprised, as if he had seen his idol. He greeted them, rubbed his hands, and asked with a smile. At first, Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei thought that he was just a staff member of the booth, or at most a manager. But when they saw the business card that he handed over, they suddenly realized that he was actually the general manager. This factory was originally my dad's. The young boss smiled and said, But now, I'm in charge of it, and I'll take it as training my ability. But, at present, it seems that I'm doing a good job. The young boss was very talkative. Poplar Fruit only echoed a few words, and then he excitedly told Poplar Fruit about his experience with Poplar Fruit. Last autumn, I also went to the Bali Fashion Week to join in the fun. Although we're not in the fashion industry, we can still cultivate our sentiments by watching this grand event of the art world. Ha! Chapter 972. I remember now. When Poplar Fruit heard him mention Bali Fashion Week, a memory that he had not thought about for a long time came back to him. What did you remember? Fong Bei asked curiously. I've really seen Boss Chun before. Yangwo looked at the young boss seriously again. She smiled and clasped her fists, bumping his chest, and said, Oh, Boss Chun, you're dressed so differently from back then. Yangwo gestured with her hands, then gestured with her hair, clothes, and shoes as she sighed. Back then, Boss Chun, you dyed your hair, and your clothes were all hip-hop style. But now you're wearing a suit. No wonder I couldn't recognize you. I went there to relax, hee. With that description, Boss Chun believed that Poplar Fruit was not trying to shock him. Instead, he was flattered and asked, Idol, you really remember me? You're a big star. Of course I remember. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, because there weren't many Chinese people who came to ask for my autograph when I performed in the hall. You were the most special one. With that outfit, I thought you were a Korean star. To be honest, it was very trendy and had a good sense of fashion. Is that so? Boss Chun chuckled. Don't listen to his nonsense. Fong Bei laughed and exposed Poplar Fruit's shortcomings. She said, he's actually the one who doesn't know fashion the most. He's not particular about his clothes. Poplar Fruit only laughed and scratched his head. He did not refute because Fong Bei was right. This must be the genius goddess, right? Boss Chun looked at Fong Bei and gave Poplar Fruit a thumbs up. He exclaimed, You're really my idol. You have such good taste. But why don't I see Kiki today? She didn't come today. Poplar Fruit explained with a smile. Chatting with his friendly boss made him feel like he had met an old friend who had known him for many years. Idol, I've been following your news. Boss Chun asked, I heard that you won't be a model anymore, right? What a pity. When I was in Bali, I thought you were better than any other model I had ever seen. Super handsome. Poplar Fruit shook his head and repeated the reason that he had explained many times. I'm fine. Idol, you're so talented. You're amazing everywhere. Boss Chun exclaimed, I've watched your speech video before, and I've heard from others that you'll definitely become a college speaker in the future. Don't say that. Poplar Fruit waved his hand embarrassedly and said, You don't have to call me idol all the time. I'm just like many other people, an ordinary commoner. Fong Bei also nodded in agreement. All right, Boss Chun laughed. Then I'll call you Poplar Fruit. Just now, the girl at our booth told me that you too wanted to buy furniture. Then I saw that you were very interested in our furniture. It's really good. Poplar Fruit nodded and smiled. We've been away for a long time, but the first thing we saw was your furniture. We're going to move to a new house, and we especially like the Mediterranean style, so we want to buy some back. No problem at all. It's my honor to be chosen by my idol, Boss Chun said with a smile. He asked Poplar Fruit and the others to sit on the sofa first, then ran to get an atlas and personally explained it to Poplar Fruit and the others. As he explained, he sighed with emotion. Poplar Fruit, you may have never thought that we sell mahogany furniture. It's selling very well. However, my father asked me to take over this shop, and I felt that I couldn't do this kind of dull furniture business. Also, I used to care about Dolly, who had studied abroad before. So, when I came back, I changed my business and started selling this kind of exotic furniture. You don't say. The sales are really good. Boss Chun said with a smile. Poplar Fruit gave him a thumbs up and said, Where there's a will, there's a way. Also, doing what you like to do, the sense of accomplishment after success is even better. You're right. Boss Chun slapped his thigh and laughed. That's how I feel. It's as if I'm not the kind of rich second generation that relies on my parents. I can also make money through my own efforts. Poplar Fruit and the others sat at the back and chatted for a long time with Boss Chun. They also picked the furniture that they liked. They really picked a whole set from the bedroom to the living room to the balcony. Poplar Fruit couldn't help but feel that this seemingly young boss was really good. At least, he was good at details. These atlas were dazzling. As long as poplar fruit and the others could think of, they could find almost everything in it. Because he was happy to see his idol, Boss Chin actually wanted to give poplar fruit a free order. This was a big deal. As a matter of fact, poplar fruit set of furniture was a big order of more than 100,000 yuan. Of course, poplar fruit wouldn't accept a reward that wasn't deserved. In the end, he only accepted Boss Chin's 10% discount. This was after Boss Chin proposed an autograph and a photo in exchange. Even so, when poplar fruit and the others left, Boss Chin still muttered, "Poplar fruit, you should at least let me, your fan, express myself." Poplar fruit couldn't understand the thoughts of rich people chasing after idols. He and Fong Beibei happily left the Pazho exhibition hall. After buying the furniture, they continued to buy electrical appliances. Although online shopping was popular now, in 2013, it was safer to go to Suning and Gomiai's Electrical City to buy large electrical appliances. Poplar fruit wasn't good at buying electrical appliances. He didn't have much experience in this area, so he had to listen to Fong Beibei. Fong Beibei was holding a long piece of paper. As she walked, she read it to Poplar fruit. "My mother said that I want to buy a washing machine from Haier, and I want to buy a rice cooker." Poplar fruit happily followed. When Fong Beibei said something, he nodded and didn't have any opinions. At most, when Fong Beibei was looking at it, he would go up and touch it. Then he would bend his fingers and knock on it with his knuckles. Fong Beibei raised her head and looked at Poplar fruit, amused. "Uncle, why are you knocking on the washing machine? This isn't a watermelon." The salesperson next to them couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. As they strolled, Poplar fruit didn't know what Fong Beibei had written on the paper. They came to the area that sold televisions. Now they were buying the super large, super thin, and super clear flat screen televisions. Poplar fruit didn't care and let Fong Beibei choose. He watched the dazzling television program with relish. Why was it the news? Poplar fruit wanted to see if there was a football game to watch. He was squatting in front of the big TV, thinking about how to change the channel. He was immediately pulled over by Fong Beibei. "Don't watch TV. Come and help me watch this TV." Chapter 973. It was a nice day. In the afternoon, Poplar fruit and Fong Beibei went home early, so they took Kiki to the square at the north gate of the school to play. There were trees and rivers, so it was a rare place for leisure. There were also a lot of children of Chi-Chi's age playing in the plaza. The atmosphere made Chi-Chi's already very excited mood even more excited. "Papa, hurry up, hurry up." The anxious little girl couldn't stand the slow pace of Poplar fruit. She ran out and ran back, holding the cloth bag in her father's hand and jumping around. Woof, woof. Even Goldie's mood was affected. It spread its legs and scurried around, then quickly scurried back. Fortunately, although Goldie was getting bigger and bigger, it was still just a cute golden retriever. Not only were the other people in the square not afraid of it, there were even a few children who wanted to run after Goldie for fun. Poplar fruit squatted down and let Kiki sit on his lap. Then he helped her put on the roller skates. Fong Beibei also took out the gloves and helmet and put them on Kiki. Wait a minute, wait a minute." Fong Beibei stopped Poplar fruit and the others. She smiled and took out her Polaroid from her small bag. "Come on, say eggplant." After taking the picture, Kiki didn't have time to play with the roller skates. She pulled her father's arm and wanted to go forward, saying, "Kiki wants to see it too." Fong Beibei shook the photo, looked at it, and handed it to Kiki. She praised it so handsome. "Our Kiki is so valiant, just like Hua Mulan. It should be Mu Guiying." Poplar fruit also laughed there. Kiki liked it very much. She was praised by her father and sister Beibei so much that her face turned red. He had started to learn pulleys. However, after wearing the pulleys, Kiki wasn't so handsome anymore. The soles of her feet kept slipping and she couldn't stand steadily. Poplar fruit wanted to let go of his hand and let Kiki stand on her own, but the little girl was so scared that she screamed and grabbed her father's sleeve desperately. That wasn't all. Chi-Chi's foot slipped, and she almost fell to the ground. Poplar fruit reacted quickly. He immediately grabbed Kiki's small hand and pulled her up her body. Even so, Kiki's legs still slid backward, and her whole body seemed to be dragged on the ground by her father. Fong Beibei held back her laughter and rushed over to help Kiki up. Needless to say, even though she had been walking on the same spot, this kind of continuous struggle was still very tiring. Kiki's hair on her temples was stuck to her small face with sweat. "Aya, you scared Kiki." Kiki gasped for breath. She didn't know if it was self-deprecating or unintentional. She even giggled. "Take a break first, drink some water." Fong Beibei felt sorry for Kiki and wiped the sweat on Kiki's face. She opened the lid of Kiki's water bottle and let her drink 2 mouthfuls. "It's okay again, this small amount of exercise is not difficult for Kiki." Poplar Fruit reached out his hand. Kiki immediately opened the water bottle and threw it to her father's arm. "Be careful, take it slow," Fong Beibei said worriedly while tidying up. In fact, Kiki's physical fitness was good. She usually followed her father to practice martial arts, Bin Fist. Her sense of balance was also quite good. After Poplar Fruit's step-by-step guidance, Kiki was finally able to stand up shakily. Even if Poplar Fruit tried to let go, she did not fall again. "Papa, Papa, Kiki is scared." At first, she was screaming and shouting, but later, when she saw that she miraculously stood firm, she was happy as if she had done something amazing. She called out to Sister Beibei to share her happiness. "Come, slowly slide." Poplar Fruit walked backward in front, holding Kiki's 2 small hands and slowly sliding forward with her. "Don't stay still. You have to lift your legs just like how you normally walk. This way you can have strength." Wow, Kiki learned so fast. Fong Beibei helped Poplar Fruit look at the road behind them, and she praised. Hearing Fong Beibei's performance, Kiki immediately stuck out her small chest and proudly grinned. Pride causes people to fall behind, and it also causes Kiki to fall. Immediately, because she did not pay attention to her feet, her roller skates hit a small stone, and she fell down unsteadily. Although Poplar Fruit caught Kiki's small arms in time, he still knelt on the ground. Fortunately, he had knee pads, so he was not injured. After learning her lesson, Kiki was much more careful in the following practice. After practicing for more than half an hour, she was finally able to take 2 steps and slowly slide forward under her father's guidance. "Kiki is so good." Fong Beibei walked over to Poplar Fruit, gave Kiki a thumbs up, and then said to Poplar Fruit, "Uncle, Kiki already knows how to skate, but I haven't learned yet." Fong Beibei acted coquettishly with Poplar Fruit, of course, because she wanted Poplar Fruit to teach her step by step. Poplar Fruit slightly loosened his hand and looked at Kiki's figure, followed by her side, and said with a smile, "Don't say that you don't know. I don't know either." Fong Beibei looked at Poplar Fruit in surprise, and seeing that he did not seem to be joking, she could not help but laugh. She patted Poplar Fruit's arm and said, "Ah, what kind of teacher are you? You haven't learned it yet?" Looking at the exaggerated expression of indignation on her face, Poplar Fruit wondered if she had put herself in a scene of a beautiful mother fighting against a mediocre teacher. Poplar Fruit laughed and said, "Before, I didn't have the money to buy roller shoes, but now it's easy to learn. With my skill, I will be able to learn very quickly. Then, Uncle, you have to learn it quickly, and then teach me." Fong Beibei smiled and pulled Poplar Fruit's arm and said, "Let's go buy roller shoes. Watching Kiki play, I also want to play." Just as Kiki was getting more and more excited playing roller shoes, in a big villa in Beijing, a luxury car drove back. Lisa Chow, who played all night, pushed open the door with a tired face and walked back. "Where have you been?" On the sofa in the living room, a man raised his head and asked in a deep voice, "Dad." Lisa Chow looked at his father in surprise and asked, "Why are you here?" "You don't need to know why I'm here." Lisa Chow's father snorted, patted the armrest, and said, "Didn't I tell you not to cause trouble during this time?" "I didn't cause trouble," Lisa Chow said, feeling wronged. "I just went to the bar to play with my friends for a while and obediently listened to you." Knowing that his words were half true and half false, Lisa Chow's father snorted again, but did not argue with him about this. He tiredly rubbed his temples and sighed. "Little Chow, when can you let me stop worrying about you? These days, don't run around." Li Zichao's father said with a sullen face. When I find someone to go through the procedures, you and your mother will go abroad. Chapter 974. Li Zichao was stunned. He opened his mouth and asked in a daze, Dad, what's going on? Why are we running away? This isn't running away, Mr. Li shouted. His voice immediately softened, and he sighed. Things are different now. I feel a little uneasy. You and your mother should go abroad and settle down first. We'll see if he can come back. He had already thought of not coming back. Wasn't this considered running away? Even though Li Zichao only knew how to eat, drink, and play, he had been exposed to stories of corrupt officials running away since he was young. How could he not understand? Is it because of Uncle Minister? Li Zichao asked in a panic. But he was arrested. It has nothing to do with us, right? Moreover, our family is the founding father of the country. It should be fine, right? It wasn't like the Li family hadn't encountered any storms for so many years, but they had all turned danger into safety. Until now, they were still standing strong. Li Zichao had a kind of blind confidence in his family. It's hard to say. Mr. Li thought of the shady business he had done and then thought of number one, who didn't get along with him, who had been emphasizing on fighting the tiger after being promoted. He shook his head. Anyway, you'll go abroad next month to lie low. Tell the public that you're going on a vacation with your mother. At this moment, he looked even worse than Li Zichao, who hadn't slept for a day and a night. He pressed his forehead, and his eyes were filled with uneasiness and worry. Li Zichao, however, did not notice this. He sat on the sofa next to him, thinking about his glory and wealth, thinking about his life of luxury. He asked unwillingly, Dad, can't we not leave? I think we'll be fine. Aren't there so many uncles and aunties visiting us during the New Year? Although the Li family had never reached the pinnacle of power, Old Master Li had many disciples in the past. Some of them even held important positions in local areas. Due to their respect for Old Master Li's noble character, even if Old Master Li had passed away early, they would still come to visit during festivals. As a result, the Li family's prosperity during the New Year was illusory. The reason why Li Zichao could do whatever he wanted in the Jiangnan area was also related to Old Master Li's disciples. They might be able to bring a lot of money out of the country, but what was the point of having so much money? China's ideology of officialdom was deeply ingrained. Only power was the foundation to flaunt one's prowess everywhere. In other countries, without support, who would pay attention to you? Li Zichao, who had studied abroad, knew this very well. He was infatuated with life in the country and was reluctant to leave. I'm not negotiating with you, Mr. Li shouted irritably. The situation is more important than you. If I could stay in the country, would I have arranged for you to go abroad? Not to mention you. Even I would have to run in 2 months. That's why you should just stay at home and wait for me. I'm going out next month. Keep a low profile, find a place, and we'll go together. In the end, Li Zichao's father laid his cards on the table. With Li Zichao, he had already realized the dangerous situation he would be in after his backer fell from power. Although it was not the Li family's turn yet, that was because their backer was too powerful. The central government would have to spend time and energy to deal with them, so they probably could not spare the time to deal with him. However, if he did not run now, he might not be able to escape. After repeatedly reminding Li Zichao, Mr. Li Zichao dragged his exhausted body and left. Li Zichao sat on the sofa in a daze for a full 2 hours. The nanny brought him a glass of water, but he did not react at all. Fuck! Suddenly, Li Zichao stood up and smashed the glass on the floor, shattering it into a pile of glass shards. The nanny, who had been secretly looking at the living room, quickly hid in her small room. Li Zichao did not stop. He threw everything on the coffee table with his left fist and right leg, then flipped the coffee table over before sitting down, panting. Raising his head and looking at the magnificent ceiling, Li Zichao felt as if he could see his extravagant life gradually leaving him. Fuck! Li Zichao cursed in a low voice. If I had been a little tougher and relied on the Zheng family, how would I have ended up in this situation? He thought that as long as he became Zheng Mingxing's son-in-law, even if his father was arrested, he would be safe and sound and continued to enjoy his superior life. If it wasn't for you, how could I have ended up in this situation? Lisa Chow's eyes were red. He did not know if it was because he was tired after a day and night of not sleeping, or because his blood was boiling with anger. He sat up abruptly, breathing out turbid air from his nostrils. He gritted his teeth and roared, "Poplar fruit! It's you, it's all your fault." Li Zichao's hatred for poplar fruit had been accumulating day after day. It had been accumulating for almost a year, but he had never succeeded in venting it out. No matter if it was the previous few times he attacked, the poplar fruit, who did not notice, used his tyrannical strength to resist, which made him more and more depressed. Since the end of last year, he had been restricted by his father and was not allowed to do anything to poplar fruit. Although the Zheng family had exerted pressure, he still blamed it on poplar fruit. Li Zichao's hatred for poplar fruit had swelled to the point that it was about to explode, and this time, he could not bear it anymore. Eyes blinded by anger, Li Zichao clenched his fists as if poplar fruit was standing in front of him. He roared, sometimes sneering, sometimes angry, and his expression was almost crazy. "You think I can't take revenge, right? Even if I run to the ends of the world before I run again, I will fuck you up, fuck you. I can't leave like this, I can't leave like this." The hatred for poplar fruit was like a fishbone across his throat. If he did not resolve it, Li Zichao was afraid that he would be depressed for the rest of his life. As for Li Zichao's father's words just now, telling him to behave and stay at home to prepare to go abroad, Li Zichao completely forgot about it. "I can't go to Guangdong province, but do you think I can't do anything to you?" Li Zichao sneered. Although he sneered, he was breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling as if a fierce beast was about to be released. Li Zichao picked up his phone and dialed a number. He buried his head and muttered for a while. Finally, he raised his head and threw the phone away. His face was filled with morbid excitement. He looked at Li Zichao with disdain and sneered. "Just you wait. How you treated me. I will return it 10 times, no, 100 times. I will let you live in pain and guilt for the rest of your life." When the smog and haze covered the sky of Beijing, in Yangcheng, the sky was clear and boundless. Facing the fiery red sunset and the gentle night breeze of Zhu River, poplar fruit carried the bag while Fong Beibei pulled Kiki, who was finally satisfied from playing. The family leisurely walked towards the teacher's dormitory. "Kiki, after learning how to roller skate, what do you want to do the most?" Kiki wants a roller skate for brother to see. Brother bullies Kiki. He won't let Kiki play. Huh. Chapter 975. As the moving day approached, Poplar Fruit's family finally came to Yangcheng. Su Jinfeng, Yang Tai, Yang Ping, Yang Chengwan, and Yang Linjie. Yang Chengwan drove his beloved Jeep SUV to the brim. Not only them, but his Poplar Fruit's godparents, Song Juwen's family also came to welcome Su Jinfeng and the others. Fong Beibei's family naturally wouldn't come so early. Her parents were still a little reserved. They informed Poplar Fruit that they would only come the next day on the big moving day. It was hard on Fong Beibei. As Poplar Fruit had to leave for class, Fong Beibei stayed at home and served tea to the elders at Poplar Fruit's side. She was also busy cutting fruits. While Su Jinfeng and Lu Suqin were chatting, Yang Tai and Song Chunfeng, who liked to drink tea, sat across from each other and drank for a long time. Song Chunfeng, on the other hand, would ask Yang Chengwan a few questions about the scale of his family's business. Yang Ping, who originally wanted to help, sat there the whole time and refused to get up from her chair. Perhaps she was in cahoots with Su Jinfeng, but the usually hard-working Yang Ping didn't help Fong Beibei. Therefore, the role of taking care of the guest today fell on Fong Beibei's shoulders. When Poplar Fruit came back, Fong Beibei looked at Poplar Fruit pitifully. Her face was red from the hot sweat, and she could only secretly act coquettishly to Poplar Fruit for comfort. "What's wrong?" Poplar Fruit's heart ached as he wiped his girlfriend's face with a towel. Then, he gently pinched her pouting little mouth and asked with a smile, "Why are you so unhappy? Are you too tired?" Fong Beibei shook her head. She lowered her voice and said, "Not really. It's my duty to work a little harder. It's just that I feel that your mother doesn't like me very much today. How could that be? Poplar Fruit looked at her in shock and asked, before they came, they even told me good things about you. How could she not like you? You saw it when we were in our hometown. My mother doted on you so much. I just feel that it's a little different from when I was in my hometown. Maybe it's just my imagination. I'll work hard. Although Fong Bei was a little depressed, she still bit her lower lip and promised that she would make Poplar Fruit's family like her. You've done very well. Don't be afraid. If they still don't treat you well, I'll talk to them for you. Seriously, I'm the one who's trying to please my wife. Hee hee. Poplar Fruit coaxed her. Actually, it was not Fong Bei's illusion. It was also not that Su Jinfeng did not like her or did not want to see her. According to the saying in Poplar Fruit's village, it was the daughter-in-law's first visit, and the mother-in-law had to show her who was the boss. Otherwise, the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law would quarrel at home in the future. Of course, although it was very serious, in Poplar Fruit's hometown, no one took this custom seriously, because it was equivalent to going through the process. On the day the daughter-in-law visited, the mother-in-law would be a little strict in order to have a good omen for the family to be harmonious in the future. However, the future days would still be as they were supposed to be. Poplar Fruit did not understand before, and Su Jinfeng did not tell him either. During the spring festival, when Fong Bei visited Poplar Fruit's house as a guest, Su Jinfeng was not very strict, mainly because she was anxious about Poplar Fruit's marriage. She did not want to scare Fong Bei. This time, no matter how kind-hearted Su Jinfeng was, she felt that this custom could not be broken. So she hardened her heart and played the role of the bad guy for the whole afternoon. During this time, she frequently made all kinds of requests, such as ordering Fong Bei to mop the floor and clean it up, and asking Fong Bei to clean the cup that was stained with tea leaves again. Actually, Su Jinfeng felt a little apologetic in her heart, but the custom could not be broken. This afternoon was Fong Bei's day of suffering. The happiest person today was Kiki, because not only did her grandparents come, but her brother Jia also came. The house was lively, and Kiki was also jubilant. She took brother Jia into the bedroom and ran out to eat the mandarin oranges that Fong Bei tore open for her. She also anxiously dragged Fong Bei and asked Sister Bei to open the packed toys for her. Since the child likes to play, you can open them for her. Su Jinfeng laughed and said, "You can pack them later. How can a child's toys not be packed?" In fact, Fong Bei was a little hurt by her words. Although she did not take it to heart, she still felt unhappy because she and Poplar Fruit had tidied up the house for a long time and packed a lot of things for tomorrow's moving. However, she could not disobey the elder's orders, and Kiki was also very happy. So Fong Bei could only open the big box that contained Kiki's toys. Kiki has 1, 2, 3, 5 Barbie dolls. Kiki turned her head and saw that brother Jia did not seem to be very interested in her most precious Barbie dolls, so she took out other toys. These are the firecrackers that Kiki said during the spring festival. Kiki grabbed a string of plastic firecrackers and said exaggeratedly, "When Papa plugs it in, it will make a crackling sound." Listening to the children's conversation, although there was nothing particularly interesting about the content, her childish voice and the drawn-out tone made people unable to help but laugh. At this time, finally, Yang Linjie could not stand Kiki's flaunting and ran out. He rushed to his mother and shouted, "Mom, Kiki has a lot of toys. I want one too. I want one too. Why do you want so many toys? You're going to school in the second half of the year. Then you have to study and do homework." Yang Ping hugged him and began to scold him. In the end, Yang Linjie came down with a depressed face, holding the gold in his arms and feeling sorry for himself. Kiki, on the other hand, showed her smug side. Holding the latest panda doll that Poplar Fruit bought for her, she ran to Yang Linjie and giggled, shaking her little butt. She really deserved a spanking. After waiting for Poplar Fruit to come back and sit for a while, Song Jiwen also came back from work. The group of people went to the hotel for dinner. The main reason was that Poplar Fruit's current apartment was too small. If he had moved there, then Poplar Fruit would definitely cook. During dinner, Fong Bei found that Poplar Fruit's mother was much nicer to her. She did not know if it was because she felt that she had gone overboard in the afternoon, but Su Jinfeng sat beside Fong Beibei with a kind smile and kept putting food in her bowl. Fong Beibei wanted to pour tea for everyone, but Su Jinfeng stopped her and smiled. "It's okay, just sit down. Let Poplar Fruit do this." This kind of good attitude continued until they went back. Even if there were many times when Poplar Fruit was not at home, Su Jinfeng still loved Fong Beibei as if she was her own daughter. Therefore, Su Jinfeng's strange behavior that afternoon became a mystery in Fong Beibei's memory. Even a long, long time later, when she and Poplar Fruit went to attend a relative's wedding, the mystery was completely solved. Chapter 976. Finally, on the day of moving, the two families finally met. They could feel that Mother Fong was wary of Su Jinfeng, and they could also feel that Su Jinfeng was afraid of Mother Fong. However, for the harmony of the family, the two women, who were usually quite strong at home, restrained their temper. They didn't show any displeasure to each other. On the other hand, Yang Tai and Father Fong got along quite well. Yang Tai's personality was rather dull, and Father Fong didn't like to be noisy. The two of them lagged behind the rest of the group and started chatting about crops that both of them were interested in. It felt like a meeting between two close friends. "I told you before that we should have more people at home. Look, now they're all suppressed," Mother Fong said to Fu Chunman when they finally got into the car. There were only 3 people from the Fong family. Besides the 2 elders and Fu Chunman, there were also Poplar Fruit's parents, Poplar Fruit's sister and brother-in-law, and Poplar Fruit's godparents. It was a mighty scene. "Auntie," Fu Chunman smiled and held Mother Fong's hand to comfort her. "What's there to compare? The Yang family lives far away, and it's rare for them to come. Naturally, the whole family came. We live closer, so we don't have to make such a big scene. Anyway, if you want to come in the future, you can come whenever you want, right? Anyway, I think it's unfair," Mother Fong muttered. "How can there be so many things in this world that are fair?" Fu Chunman smiled. "Anyway, Poplar Fruit is good to our Beibei, right? And, as you can see, the Yang family is also good to Beibei. Her sister even held an umbrella for Beibei. That's what they should do." Mother Fong snorted and said, "Our Beibei marrying into their family is a blessing to their ancestors." Poplar Fruit didn't have many things to move, because other than clothes, computers, and other supplies that they didn't need to change, the rest of the things were left in the teacher's apartment. It would be reserved for them to go to school and rest at noon. 4 cars arrived at their new home in a grandiose manner. The young man carried the box while the old man took care of the child. The group of people took the elevator upstairs. As soon as the door opened, everyone who walked in, including Song Jiwen and Chun Anlin who had been here before, couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. The sky blue ceiling, exquisite and elegant ceramic tiles, and the wooden furniture, wooden railings, wooden stairs, and wooden shelves that could be seen everywhere embellished the room with an exotic atmosphere. On the other hand, the Mediterranean-style tables, chairs, sofas, and cabinets that he had bought previously gave people a refreshing and comfortable feeling in the spacious and bright living room. So big, Fu Chunman came in, pulled Fong Beibei, and said in surprise, "How much did it cost?" Indeed, he had spent a lot of money. Poplar Fruit had bought a house, renovated it, and bought furniture. In total, he had spent 7 to 8 million yuan. Poplar Fruit is a duplex. Song Jiwen introduced it to his parents. "This guy is too rich. I took a loan to buy a 3-bedroom house, but he paid the full price for a duplex. Don't compare yourself to him. You are a public official, so you have to put your heart into your work. As long as you are comfortable with the house, it's fine." Song Chunfong educated him. As the host, Poplar Fruit asked everyone to put down their luggage. Then, he smiled and showed the guests around each room. "This is the study." Poplar Fruit opened the first door on the first floor and let everyone in. He pointed proudly at the tall bookshelves that surrounded the 4 walls of the room and smiled. "The books here haven't been moved over yet. Even if they were moved over, they would probably only be able to fill 1 shelf. My goal is to fill all 4 bookshelves with books in the future. This can still be moved." Poplar Fruit ran over and pressed a button. The bookshelf was divided into two parts, and the upper part slowly moved forward. Under the pull of poplar fruit, the upper part of the bookshelf was slowly lowered and stopped in front of the lower part of the bookshelf. In this way, there was no need for a ladder to climb up to get the books. Poplar fruit had searched the market for a long time to find this bookshelf, and it was custom-made. It was a rare piece of furniture full of mechanical wisdom. Transformer. Seeing this, the one who was most interested was young Lingjia. He ran over and exclaimed in surprise and envy. "It's not a transformer, it's my papa's bookshelf." No one knew what Chi-Chi was thinking. She also ran over and stood in front of the bookshelf. Like a mother hen protecting her chicks, she opened her arms and started shouting. In fact, there was nothing to see in the study. Except for some magical bookshelves on all sides, there were only two long sofas in the middle where one could sit comfortably and read books, and a big table for two people, which was very similar to the ones in a library. "It's a waste to use such a big room as a study, isn't it?" Mother Fong couldn't help but murmur. At the same time, Su Jinfeng also complained in unison. They both heard each other's murmurs and looked at each other with a strange look in their eyes. However, this was the decision of the young people, and it had been renovated. They knew that it was useless to complain. The next room was smaller. They had asked the renovation team to separate the large living room and use it as a guest room. The decoration was relatively simple, but there was all kinds of furniture, which looked very cozy. There was also a big room on the first floor, which was bigger than the study. There was no furniture in it, only a layer of soft tatami mats and some simple fitness equipment in the corner. What a waste! What a waste! Su Jinfeng and Mother Fong felt even more sorry and distressed when they found out that this room was only used for fitness and poplar fruit to exercise in the morning. "Bebe, why don't you scold him?" Before Mother Fong could say anything, Su Jinfeng spoke first. "Such a big room. What can it be used for? Just leave it here empty?" Poplar Fruit took over his mother's criticism and said with a smile, "Mom, this isn't empty. In the future, we can directly practice martial arts at home. You don't know, but Kiki wakes up every morning to practice martial arts with me. And Bebe, her body is much better now. Isn't it all because of her perseverance in training?" Fong Bebe also nodded in agreement. She was shy, so she didn't want others to watch while she trained with Poplar Fruit. There were 4 rooms upstairs: the master bedroom, Kiki's toy house, and the second guest room. Among them, the master bedroom was the biggest, but the one that stole the limelight was still Kiki's bedroom, because it was too dreamy. The ceiling and the 4 walls were covered with cartoon wallpaper. Kiki's favorite characters, Pleasant Goat, Big Wolf, and SpongeBob SquarePants were printed in color. Not to mention the extremely cute children's furniture and beds. The wallpaper alone was enough to envelop the entire room in a dreamy world. Minions! Chi-Chi struggled out of her grandmother's arms and pounced toward the row of cute minion dolls on the bed in pleasant surprise. That's right, this was the surprise that Poplar Fruit and Fong Bebe had carefully prepared for Kiki so that Kiki could integrate in her new home sooner. "This is Rocket Dave. This is Trumpet Carl, Sinus." Kiki climbed onto the bed and happily picked up the minions one by one and introduced them to everyone. Huh. The adults were all amused by Kiki's imitation. The little girl was too cute. Of course, her brother, Yang Lingjia, was still envious of her. Chapter 977. In fact, Chi-Chi had never had the experience of sleeping alone in a room. No matter if it was at home or anywhere else, Chi-Chi would always sleep in the same room with her father. Moreover, she would often climb onto her father's big bed to stay with them. Although Kiki seemed to be fascinated by this room now, she would definitely cry and ask to go to her father's room when she went to bed at night. Therefore, Poplar Fruit prepared this bedroom for Kiki with an eye to the future. They still had to do what they should do now. They wouldn't change immediately after moving to a new home. Don't make trouble on the stairs. Be careful not to fall down. Poplar Fruit and Fong Bebe went to buy groceries and came back. They had been cooking in the kitchen. The rest of the people sat in the living room and chatted. The heavy responsibility of taking care of the 2 children fell on Mother Fong's shoulders. It wasn't appropriate to use the word fell because this task was snatched by Mother Fong. People were a little selfish. In the past, Mother Fong thought that Kiki liked to play with her grandparents. She even thought that compared to Kiki's real grandparents, they were more important in Kiki's heart. Every time she came to their house, Father Fong and Mother Fong would rack their brains and come up with all sorts of ways to cook delicious food for Chi-Chi. Then, they heard from Fong Bei that Chi-Chi especially liked her grandparents and looked forward to coming to their house to play every day. However, from what they saw today, Kiki seemed to be closer to her grandparents. Mother Fong was a little jealous that Su Jinfeng spent the whole morning circling around Su Jinfeng. This couldn't be blamed on Kiki, because Kiki didn't circle around Su Jinfeng at all. It was Yang Linjie who stuck to Su Jinfeng, and then Kiki wanted to play with her brother Jia. Therefore, in Mother Fong's eyes, who ignored Yang Linjie, Kiki was sticking to her grandma. "Kiki, I don't want to see your toys. Your toys are for girls." Yang Linjie, who was annoyed, finally shouted out. He didn't want to be dragged upstairs by Kiki anymore. Kiki scratched her head, rolled her eyes, and suggested, "Then let's go and see Papa. Papa is making delicious food. Brother Jia, what do you like to eat? I'll ask Papa to make it for you." This poked Yang Linjie's itch. Previously, when he was in the living room, he smelled the aroma from the kitchen, which made his mouth water. Nodding his head, he couldn't wait to say, "Sure, let's go." So, the two energetic children ran to the kitchen again. Mother Fong was a little slow and was soon left behind by the children. After the two little fellows who were causing havoc in the heavenly palace got into the kitchen, they were immediately kicked out. Fong Bei also washed her hands and personally came out to take care of or discipline the two little fellows. Mother Fong finally got a chance to catch her breath. "You can't have too many children. One is the best, but if there are two, they'll start quarreling," Fu Chunman said with a smile. She, an unmarried guy, was actually discussing the issue of children. The sense of disharmony was a bit serious. Song Jiwen, who was also a little afraid of marriage and children, wanted to agree, but Mother Fong made him swallow his words. "Do you mean that your cousin doesn't want children after getting married?" Mother Fong glanced at her and asked. At that moment, Fu Chunman felt like a prey being stared at by a lion. She was shocked. However, she was more carefree and said with a smile, "Aunt, this is the young people's business. They can discuss and deal with it themselves. You don't have to worry about it." "What do you mean by don't have to worry about it?" Mother Fong said unhappily. "Didn't we come here to talk about marriage? We still have to talk about it." Her voice was not loud, but everyone was listening. Mother Fong also wanted to talk to the Yang family. "We really like Kiki. This child is obedient and sensible. We've long treated her as our own granddaughter," Mother Fong said. "But since Poplar Fruit and Bei are both capable, and their finances are not a problem, why don't you consider having a second child? Even if I don't have time, I can still help take care of it." Mother Fong was still worried that the Yang family would really treat Fong Bei as a stepmother. A woman can only be considered complete after she has given birth to her own child. "Don't worry, in-law." Su Jinfeng laughed. Although she did not appear to be very proud, she felt that she was proud when Mother Fong was worried first. "We also support Poplar Fruit and Bei to have a child. This is a process after marriage, but we still don't want to put too much pressure on the child." Fong Bei came downstairs. She had heard Mother Fong's words from upstairs. She blushed and said, "That's right. Mom, don't worry, okay? I'm only in my second year of university. How can I have a child? We'll talk about it later." Finally, Poplar Fruit, who did not know anything, came out and called Fong Bei and Song Jiwen over to serve the dishes. Chun Anlin, who was purely an outsider today, also felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. He quickly ran over to help. The dining table that Poplar Fruit and Fong Bei had bought in the dining room could not seat so many people. Fortunately, Poplar Fruit had already prepared for it. He folded the original table and put it away. Then, he asked Song Jiwen to help him move out a large round table from the storage room. He put up a shelf and placed it on the table. It became a very Chinese banquet. During the meal, the two families mainly discussed the engagement. The engagement was very simple. Previously at the teacher's dormitory, everyone had reached a consensus that Poplar Fruit and Fong Bei would get married when they graduated. The graduation referred to Fong Bei's undergraduate degree. Of course, Poplar Fruit estimated that he would have graduated with a doctorate by then. As for Fong Bei's postgraduate studies and even further studies, that would not affect their marriage. Originally, they did not have an undergraduate degree. However, Poplar Fruit and Fong Bei both felt that it was still too early to get married. Since they had reached a consensus, the two families discussed the details during the meal. Laogua, I'm telling you, I can't ignore other things, but you have to keep the best man position for me. Song Jiwen laughed. At the same time, Fu Chunman muttered to Fong Bei, That's right, Bei, I want to be a bridesmaid too. Anyway, you have a few bridesmaid positions. Give one to me, and let me get married as soon as possible. After the two of them made this request, they looked at each other and laughed. Song Jiwen even noisily reached out his hand and went around Fu Chunman to high-five her. The two of them, who were playful by nature, immediately felt that this was a very good idea. However, while they felt that it was a good idea, someone else felt that it was a bad idea. Chun Anlin lowered his head and ate his food. He was silent like a taciturn gourd. No one noticed Chun Anlin's situation because Mother Fong opened her mouth and said, Since we're already engaged, I feel that there's something that I still need to mention. Chapter 978. Everyone thought that Mother Fong was going to talk about her second child, so they all looked at Kiki at the same time. However, that wasn't what Mother Fong wanted to talk about. Sister Sue, let me make it clear. Our family isn't greedy for money, and we're not marrying our daughter for money. Mother Fong looked at Su Jinfeng and said, It's not like we don't have money. We've been doing business for the past few years, and our daughter can still live a good life. Su Jinfeng smiled and nodded, but Poplar Fruit and Fong Bei were confused. Mother Fong turned to look at Poplar Fruit and Fong Bei and said, I've been keeping this in my heart for a long time. Since everyone is here today, I have to talk about the two of you. Bei, don't be in a hurry to eat. I'm talking about you too. Poplar Fruit scratched his head and said, Auntie, if you have anything to say, just say it. You're still calling me Auntie? Fu Chunman smiled and said, Poplar Fruit and Bei, since you're engaged today, you have to change the way you address me. Oh, yes. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, Mom, please say it. Yanghua had 3 mothers. One was her biological mother, one was her mother-in-law, and one was her godmother. Su Jinfeng didn't think that there was anything wrong with it, as it was what they should be addressing each other. Don't be so cheeky. Mother Fong was still serious. She said, What I want to talk about today is your concept of money management. Let's talk about this house. It's your choice to buy such a big house, but it's such a waste of space. Mother Fong sighed and said, There are so many rooms downstairs. You use one as a study room and the other as a gym room. Let's not talk about whether it's necessary, but do you think it's worth it to spend so much space and investment on these impractical things? Mother Fong said what Su Jinfeng was thinking. She had always wanted to talk about this. There were 6 rooms in the house. Including the partition rooms, there were 7 rooms. But the room for entertainment took up 3 rooms. There's also a game room. If he gave it to Kiki, wouldn't it make her heart wild? Su Jinfeng added. Kiki, who was playing with Goldie at the side, turned her head. She thought they were talking about her game room. Kiki shouted happily. It's Kiki's game room. Papa said that he would buy Kiki a lot of toys. I want to buy a castle. Xiao Jia, bring Kiki to the side to play. Master wants to talk about something. Su Jinfeng ordered. Poplar Fruit scratched his head. He didn't think much of it, but he couldn't argue with the elders, so he could only smile. Say, with so many rooms, wouldn't it be great to use them as guest rooms? Mother Fong said, Even if someone comes to our house, we can still stay there. Mom, don't we already have 2 guest rooms? Fong Bei couldn't help but say, Moreover, we're not wasting these rooms. We'll use the study often in the future. The gym is also very important to Poplar Fruit. And how many times have I told you? Fu Chunman said with a smile. Just let the young couple decorate whatever they want to do. They're the ones who live their own lives. Isn't it fine as long as they feel comfortable? Besides, poplar fruit isn't poor. It's because he's rich that we should emphasize how to manage money. Mother Fong said, Sister Sue, I don't know if you've seen the news before. Do you know how much poplar fruit donated to some charity fund? Now that you're rich, it's good to donate some money to do good deeds. It's good for your child. Su Jinfeng advised. Sister Sue, I didn't say that you shouldn't donate money to do good deeds. Mother Fong said with a wry smile. But poplar fruit donated 40 million yuan. 40 million yuan. Looking at this number, even I was shocked. She wasn't the only one who was shocked. Su Jinfeng, Yang Tai, Yang Ping, and Yang Chongwan, who hadn't paid much attention to the news before, were all shocked. Even if they had started a factory and made some money, they wouldn't have thought of that number. In-law, how much did you say? Yang Tai asked in a trembling voice. Song Chunfong answered on behalf of Mother Fong. 40 million. It's not 40 million yet, but it's almost there. Old man, you know this? Lu Suqin asked in surprise. If you knew, why didn't you tell me? Poplar fruit was being silly. If we knew, we could have persuaded him. 40 million. It's not like it's 40,000 yuan. How can you earn it back so easily? Where did you get so much money? Su Jinfeng looked at poplar fruit sternly and asked. Her first thought was that poplar fruit might have done something illegal. Poplar fruit explained, in the past, I designed a game with Bei Bei and made some money. Then, last year, I helped teacher Mo Yin, the one who won the Nobel Prize in Literature, translate a few books. They sold very well overseas, and I made quite a bit of money from them. As for how much poplar fruit he had donated, he didn't know. Haha, I knew it long ago. Old Gua is a nouveau riche. Song Jiwen said with a grin. Last year, when he bought this house, he paid for it in full without blinking an eye. But you didn't have to donate so much. Su Jinfeng's heart ached just thinking about it. She was feeling exactly the same as Mother Fong. Bei Bei, did you know about this? Mother Fong asked. Fong Bei Bei originally lowered her head and wanted to be a coward. However, when her mother called her out, she could only raise her head and nod with her mouth stuffed. I've discussed this matter with Bei Bei. Poplar fruit looked at Fong Bei Bei lovingly and smiled. She knew that I was teaching from afar, and she even gave me the 10 million that I gave her from selling the game. As they spoke, the two of them held each other's hands. This was because they gradually recalled the time when they had yet to break through the final psychological barrier and get together. It was a tangled but happy memory. Fong Bei Bei took a sip of water and said softly, Yeah, Poplar Fruit told me that he wanted to set up a charity fund for the children in the mountainous areas. I think it's pretty good. Then I persuaded him to donate the money that we don't need and do something good. Mother Fong couldn't help but scold her. Girl, are you stupid? Who would say that they don't need the money? If they don't need it, why don't you use it to buy a house and sell it later? What if you don't have money when you want to use it to do things in the future? Mom, that's what I think. Fong Bei Bei's expression was very serious. When Poplar Fruit held her hand to give her courage, she said boldly, Poplar Fruit and I are still young, and Poplar Fruit might be making money. Instead of saving the money now, we might as well use it to do something meaningful and help more people. Poplar Fruit nodded and smiled. Yeah, Mom, you don't have to worry about us. Look, even if we do good things and donate a lot of money, our lives are still very happy and blissful. Isn't that enough? Seeing Poplar Fruit and Fong Bei Bei together like this, Mother Fong and Su Jinfeng looked at each other helplessly. They really didn't know what to do with these two silly people. Chapter 979. Because they were worried about their family's business, Yang Wa's parents stayed in Yangchang for 2 days before returning home in her sister and brother-in-law's car. Yang Linjia was reluctant to leave, but he had to go to primary school in the second half of the year. No matter how much he cried, Yang Ping spanked him and took him away. The days of living in the new house were happy. Yang Gua and Fong Bei Bei quickly found the most compatible rhythm of life. They exercised together in the morning, went to school together, went home together, and cooked together. At night, after Kiki slept and Poplar Fruit worked, Fong Bei Bei accompanied him in the study to read books and do homework. If they were tired, the two of them would go back to the bedroom and watch some dramas or videos. Then, under Poplar Fruit's urging, they would do something embarrassing before going to bed. It was very much like a couple who had entered the state of marriage in advance. Of course, as their family grew bigger, their standard of living and quality of life improved a lot. If Fong Beibei told her best friends about it, they would definitely hate her. Of course, this didn't mean that they lost their personal space. For example, today, Fong Beibei went shopping with Lin Xingshan and Kiki played at Grandma Chen's house. Poplar Fruit drove alone to the military camp to look for He Wenjua. He was a regular in the Special Forces and would come here once a month or so. On one hand, he wanted to find a place to practice his dangerous Miao Dao. It was a reflection after being scolded by his master at the beginning of the year. On the other hand, he could play with guns and be a sparring partner for the soldiers in the Special Forces. Although he was a sparring partner, only Meng Sanhua could barely exchange a few moves with Poplar Fruit. The others were no match for Poplar Fruit. Therefore, Poplar Fruit would play with them and give some pertinent comments. You don't say. Yang's wholehearted guidance still had a very good effect. The most obvious one was Meng Sanhua, who was obsessed with martial arts. His kung fu had improved by leaps and bounds. Last month, he had become the champion of the National Military Freestyle Boxing Competition. The others were not bad either. The combat skills of the Special Forces had obviously improved a lot. It was also because of Poplar Fruit's outstanding contributions that when Poplar Fruit came to visit last month, the chief of the army received him and even asked if he was willing to join the army. Poplar Fruit was 25 years old and was at the peak of his life. Moreover, with Poplar Fruit's superb martial arts and excellent marksmanship, if Poplar Fruit were to join the military, he would definitely be able to join the Special Forces and become one of the most powerful weapons in Yang Cheng's military. Of course, Poplar Fruit still had his shortcomings. After all, Poplar Fruit was just an ordinary person without much combat experience. However, experience was nothing compared to talent. As long as the Poplar Fruit participated in a few missions, wouldn't his experience increase? However, that would require Poplar Fruit's consent. Poplar Fruit, who already had a happy life, would naturally not be willing to dedicate his time to the military. Although becoming a soldier king was a very fulfilling thing, it had nothing to do with Poplar Fruit anymore, at least not in this life. 1, 2, 3. Big Bear and the others were counting happily by the side of the field. With a few clanging sounds, Poplar Fruit backhanded the sharp Miao Dao and pointed it at Yin Liuqing's neck. The cold blade penetrated through the thin layer of air and acted on Yin Liuqing's skin. Yin Liuqing suddenly had goosebumps all over his body. If it went any lower, Yin Liuqing would really die. After Poplar Fruit put away his blade, Yin Liuqing held the blade in his hand and said with admiration, "Poplar Fruit, your control of power is getting better and better." After all, this was a blade. Yanghua was actually able to lightly touch his skin without hurting him in the slightest. This was probably the level of a butcher in ancient times. Yanghua grinned and cupped his fists at him. He felt pretty good. Although Miao Dao was not something that could be practiced every day, and he only tried out the posture of Miao Dao after a week, and only practiced with a real saber after a month, he still made a lot of progress compared to before. It's my turn to compete with Poplar Fruit. Bear 2 jumped down from the stone steps and left 2 deep footprints on the ground. I'll go first. Suddenly, there was a shout. A black shadow covered the sun and flew past. It was Meng Sanhua. He had just been on duty to clean up. He rushed back and even jumped down the 2-meter-high stone steps without any intention of going down slowly. However, compared to Bear 2, he did not leave any footprints. He was as light as a master of Qigong in novels. Poplar Fruit, come. Let's fight to the death today. Meng Sanhua was 3 meters away from Poplar Fruit. He jumped around excitedly like Bruce Lee and stretched his legs. Big brother Meng, are you looking for a beating again? Yanghua asked with a smile. He sheathed the 2 Miao Dao in his hands and put it aside. Humph, this time, I'll defeat you and avenge myself. Meng Sanhua pointed at Poplar Fruit and said in high spirits. That's what you said last time. Poplar Fruit laughed. This time, Meng Sanhua improved again. His Tante became faster and faster, like the short, accurate, and fierce Muay Thai. In the beginning, Poplar Fruit did not go all out because he wanted to see how good Meng Sanhua was. That was why his Tai Chi fist was only on par with Meng Sanhua. Meng Sanhua's weakness was exposed last time. His stamina could not keep up with his fast movements. Poplar Fruit did not fight back and lasted 5 minutes before he collapsed. This time, Meng Sanhua learned the breathing method Poplar Fruit taught him, not Poplar Fruit's internal energy. He finally got rid of the nickname short-lived third brother that Yang Jingdong used to call him. Every punch landed on flesh. The other Special Forces soldiers on the sidelines cheered happily. After seeing Meng Sanhua's strength, Poplar Fruit did not waste any more time. Poplar Fruit suddenly thrust his hands forward. When Meng Sanhua raised his arms in front of him to block, Poplar Fruit kicked away his raised right knee and hit him in the face with his left elbow. This was not enough to make Meng Sanhua surrender. He only tilted his head and was about to charge again. This time, Poplar Fruit's Tai Chi fist worked. No one could see Poplar Fruit's movements clearly. They only saw Meng Sanhua's arms tremble before he was sent flying by Poplar Fruit. Finally, Poplar Fruit kicked him in the neck, ending the fight. Poplar Fruit laughed as he helped Meng Sanhua up and patted the dirt off him. Although there was a lot of noise, other than the elbow to the face, there was not much strength. Even then, Poplar Fruit held back half of his strength. That kind of pain was nothing to Meng Sanhua. Moreover, he was a tough guy who grew stronger the more he fought. Next time, I will defeat you. I swear on my reputation in the next life. Meng Sanhua shouted confidently. Poplar Fruit rolled his eyes, speechless. Bro, can't you change your line? Chapter 980. In the past 2 days, Poplar Fruit had been busy again, but it was a festive kind of busy. After more than a month of hard work, they had finally completed the installation of remote education equipment in 16 villages. The first 2 villages had also been taught how to use these magical computers after more than a week of training. They were about to hold the opening ceremony for them one after another, and they would begin their magical journey of remote education. This was a good thing. Volunteers from more than a dozen universities were rubbing their hands together, excitedly waiting to be able to contribute to the children. The first opening ceremony, which was tomorrow, would be held in the small auditorium of Higashiyama University. Uncle Gene from the Education Department, who was also Deputy Director Sue, would be there to observe the ceremony, so the university attached great importance to it. Poplar Fruit and the others were also nervously preparing. Fong Bei had also been busy accompanying her. Poplar Fruit did not care about his identity as the founder and current chairman of this non-profit organization. He took the lead in moving the tables and chairs, and Fong Bei was not as delicate as they had previously thought. She helped to wipe the tables and change the tablecloths. The 2 of them did not do any less dirty work than the other students. This couple was originally not very popular in the university, but this time, everyone suddenly felt that perhaps they were the most compatible pair. However, sometimes a good mood could be easily ruined by a piece of rat feces. Poplar Fruit and Fong Bei were preparing to pick up Kiki and go home. Suddenly, they saw a familiar figure in the distance. His eyebrows furrowed, and his expression immediately changed. Fong Bei, who was walking with Poplar Fruit, quickly felt it. She looked in the direction that Poplar Fruit was looking at, but there were many people, so she did not know who Poplar Fruit was looking at. She tugged at Poplar Fruit's clothes and asked, "Uncle, what's wrong?" Poplar Fruit shook his head. He patted Fong Bei's shoulder and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I'm fine." However, looking at the limping figure, Poplar Fruit took a deep breath. He took out the key and handed it over. He lowered his head and said to Fong Bei, "Baby, go pick up Kiki first and wait for me in the car. I'll be back soon." Fong Bei grabbed his hand worriedly. At this moment, Poplar Fruit looked a little like the one she had stopped that night. He was wearing tight-fitting clothes, and his body was emitting cold air. "I'm really fine." Poplar Fruit reached over and rubbed her head. He smiled and said, "I just saw an acquaintance. I'll go and greet him. Wait for me for a few minutes. I'll be right there." Fong Bei nodded obediently. Although she was still a little worried, she obediently went to pick up Kiki under Poplar Fruit's gaze. After Fong Beibei's figure disappeared, Poplar Fruit's eyes suddenly turned cold. He snorted, turned around, and walked toward the person he had seen before. His footsteps were much faster. As he got closer, Poplar Fruit saw the man wearing a cap and a very ordinary striped t-shirt. Although he was limping, Poplar Fruit believed that he was not mistaken. He was Pai Din Wan, who he had met several times in Bali. Pai Din Wan, who had disappeared for half a year, had not changed much. He had only lost a lot of weight. However, compared to his previous well-dressed self, he was now even more slovenly. The stubble on his face had not been shaved for a long time. If it were not for his normal clothes, it would not be an exaggeration to say that he was a roadside beggar. The most eye-catching thing was his limping left leg. When he walked, it was obvious that his left leg was somewhat inconvenient. However, how could Poplar Fruit care so much? Wasn't it better if he was limping? He could not run away. Before he got close, Pai Din Wan noticed Poplar Fruit's footsteps. When he turned around, not only was he not surprised, but he was pleasantly surprised. Poplar Fruit reached out and grabbed Pai Din Wan's collar. He lowered his head and stared into his eyes. He breathed heavily and roared in a low voice. "You with the surname Bai, you still dare to appear in front of me?" However, just like how Poplar Fruit ignored Pai Din Wan's expression, Pai Din Wan was not afraid. He was overjoyed and said, "Young Poplar Fruit, I finally found you." Listening to this voice, it seemed that he was the one who came to find him. Poplar Fruit did not care so much. He looked at the people coming and going left and right, then dragged Pai Din Wan to a remote place. Poplar Fruit, listen to me. It's very urgent, very urgent." Pai Din Wan was dragged by Poplar Fruit. As his left leg was injured, he staggered as he walked. "Why should I listen to you?" Poplar Fruit suddenly roared. At this moment, he was so angry that his hair was about to stand up. He grabbed Pai Din Wan's collar and lifted him up. He really lifted him up. Pai Din Wan's toes could barely touch the ground. Although Pai Din Wan struggled, how could he be stronger than Poplar Fruit? "Do you think I'm a fool? Do you think Xueqing doesn't know about the dirty things you've done?" Poplar Fruit asked sternly. "That's not it." Pai Din Wan squeezed out 2 words with difficulty. He was grabbed by Poplar Fruit by the collar, and the pressure made it difficult for him to breathe. "That's not it." Poplar Fruit thought that Pai Din Wan was denying it. This completely ignited his anger. He threw Pai Din Wan to the ground, pressed down on his knees, and yelled angrily, "We have all the photos and recordings. All the evidence shows that you did it. You're still denying it?" Pai Din Wan covered his neck and rubbed it. He said in a hoarse voice, "Poplar Fruit, listen to me. I did do it, but I'm not the mastermind. I was hired by someone else." However, his honesty and refutation didn't have a good effect. Instead, it made Poplar Fruit even angrier. He threw a straight punch and hit Pai Din Wan hard on the left side of his face. Although Poplar Fruit held back his strength, under Poplar Fruit's angry state, he didn't control his strength well enough. Pai Din Wan was punched directly to the ground, and his head hit the ground with a dong sound. Pai Din Wan was bleeding from the corner of his mouth and shaking his head. Poplar Fruit grabbed him by the collar and said angrily, "Do you think I punched you because you caused so many media outlets to slander me? If it was just me, I wouldn't have bothered with you." Poplar Fruit pulled Pai Din Wan up like a broken bag. His punch just now hit Pai Din Wan so hard that he groaned in pain. "You shouldn't have played with Xueqing's feelings," Poplar Fruit said in a low voice. "How did Xueqing treat you? Do you know? Do you know how sad she was after you disappeared?" Thinking of Duan Xueqing's sad look, his anger rose again. He pushed Pai Din Wan to the ground again and kicked him. Chapter 981. What kind of position did Duan Xueqing have in Poplar Fruit's heart? He still liked her, but it didn't reach the level of love. Poplar Fruit felt that Duan Xueqing was his younger sister who never grew up. She was cold and pretended to be an adult, but in reality, she was always in trouble, which made him very worried. As for Pai Din Wan, this guy was like a bad man who bullied his younger sister. How could Poplar Fruit not be angry? When we were in Bali, I told you that if you dare to bully Duan Xueqing, I will beat you every time I see you. Poplar Fruit gnashed his teeth and kicked him again. At this time, Poplar Fruit didn't beat people like a martial arts master, but more like a punching school hooligan. Fortunately, Poplar Fruit didn't aim for the vital parts. Although Pai Din One's skin and flesh were in intense pain, he wasn't seriously injured. At most, Poplar Fruit didn't control his punch well at the beginning, which almost gave him a concussion. Poplar Fruit rarely got so angry. It was mainly because Pai Din One bullied Duan Xueqing, causing Duan Xueqing to be depressed and sick. On the other hand, Poplar Fruit had been suppressing his anger in his heart. After beating Pai Din One for a while, Poplar Fruit felt a little better. Pai Din One was also the same. After being beaten up, he didn't make a sound, nor did he struggle, which made Poplar Fruit feel a little strange. Seeing Poplar Fruit stop, Pai Din One got up from the ground after a period of pain. He raised his head and said in a low voice, "I'm sorry." Pai Din One apologized. Poplar Fruit was a little surprised and also a little puzzled. In his impression, Pai Din One was also a somewhat arrogant person. Why would he admit defeat like this? Thinking back to when he caught Pai Din One, Poplar Fruit began to suspect that it was him who sent himself to him. What happened before was my fault, Pai Din One said in a muffled voice. I shouldn't have used Xueqing and hurt her. I let her down. Please forgive me. Hearing this, Poplar Fruit's anger, which had subsided a little, was aroused again. He kicked him and knocked him down again. Poplar Fruit pointed at Pai Din One and scolded angrily. Let me tell you, this isn't a matter of whether I forgive you or not. It's a matter of whether Xueqing forgives you or not. Feeling that he didn't make it clear enough, Poplar Fruit continued. Also, don't even think about asking for Xueqing's forgiveness. You're a piece of trash who plays with women's feelings. Get lost as far as you can. Don't appear in front of Xueqing again and make her sad again. Do you think she still can't forget you? Poplar Fruit sneered and said, You're wrong. Xueqing has long forgotten about you. She's living a good life. Please don't get in her way. Poplar Fruit ignored Pai Din One's silly expression. His impression of Pai Din One was now only liar and emotional swindler, so he felt that Pai Din One was still pretending to be pitiful in order to get pity from Poplar Fruit and Duan Xueqing. Put away your hypocritical look. No one is willing to pity you. Poplar Fruit stood up in disdain, clapped his hands, and said. He turned to leave, but then turned back and pointed at Pai Din One fiercely and said, Also, get out of my sight, or I'll beat you up every time I see you. Just as Poplar Fruit was about to leave, Pai Din One suddenly said loudly, Poplar Fruit, I'm not here to beg for your pity or forgiveness. This was the first time he had spoken loudly. Before this, Pai Din One didn't have much confidence and even felt dispirited. Poplar Fruit thought that he was bluffing. He turned around and looked at him coldly. Pai Din One lowered his voice and continued, I'm not here to beg for forgiveness. I was wrong, and I will apologize to Xueqing myself. You won't have the chance to see her. Poplar Fruit thought that Pai Din One wanted to get back together with Duan Xueqing through him. He sneered and said, Keep dreaming. No, you don't know. Pai Din One shook his head bitterly. His eyes became firm as he raised his head and said, I want to ask you to save Xueqing. Poplar Fruit frowned and asked doubtfully, What did you say? Your kung fu is so powerful. You can definitely help her. Pai Din One looked at Poplar Fruit eagerly and said, I got the news that someone wants to make a move on Xueqing. Please go to her side and protect her. Conspiracy. These two words appeared in Poplar Fruit's mind. Yes, Poplar Fruit felt that Pai Din One's words and actions were filled with a strong sense of conspiracy. Just like in Bali, he tricked Duan Xueqing into trusting him and sold out her friend, Poplar Fruit. The recording of the conversation and the photos of the money transactions made Poplar Fruit unable to trust Pai Din One. What Pai Din One said now made Poplar Fruit feel disgusted and disgusted. Do you think that Xueqing and I are still so stupid that we will be tricked by you again and again? Poplar Fruit sneered and turned to leave. Wait. Pai Din One wanted to grab Poplar Fruit's foot, but he was kicked far away by Poplar Fruit. When he raised his head again, he could no longer see Poplar Fruit's figure. Yang Wu angrily left. She took a few turns and returned to the place where she parked her car. However, In order not to let his girlfriend worry, Yang squeezed out a smile on his face, and he also suppressed his anger just now. However, it was easy to change one's aura, but difficult to disguise one's expression. After all, Poplar Fruit was only a martial arts expert, not an award-winning actor. When he opened the car door and got in, Fong Beibei quickly saw some clues from his forced smile. "Uncle, what's wrong with you?" Fong Beibei leaned over from the back and gently hugged Poplar Fruit's neck. She carefully looked at Poplar Fruit's face and asked worriedly, "Nothing." Poplar Fruit gently rubbed Fong Beibei's head and said, "You're still lying to me. Now you don't want to tell me anything?" Fong Beibei asked with some grievances. Kiki, who was sitting in the back, also squeezed her little head to join in the fun. She shouted, "A child who lies is not a good child. Papa, don't lie." Poplar Fruit rubbed Kiki's little head and said with a smile, "Papa didn't lie." He scratched his head, pressed Fong Beibei's hand, gently patted it, and said, "It's not a big deal. I don't want you to worry." "No, I want to hear it." Fong Beibei pouted and said, "All right." Poplar Fruit sighed and helplessly said, "I just saw a man who deceived my junior sister, Duan Xueqing. Do you remember? I've told you about it before." Fong Beibei nodded and asked, Yes, he also framed you. A very bad person." "Yes." Poplar Fruit agreed and said, "So when I found him, I was very angry and argued with him." Poplar Fruit didn't want to appear violent in front of Fong Beibei, so he didn't talk about the fight. "Uncle, don't be angry." Fong Beibei gently stroked Poplar Fruit's chest with her little hand and comforted him. "We don't have to be angry with these bad people." Poplar Fruit smiled and nodded. He patted her hand and said, "I know, don't be angry. With our baby here, we can never be angry. Let's go home." Chapter 982. Even though he had told Fong Beibei that he wouldn't take it to heart, Poplar Fruit still recalled Pai Din One's words that night. "I've received news that someone's going to harm Xiao Qing. Please go to her side and protect her." This sentence repeatedly echoed in Poplar Fruit's mind. During the day, Poplar Fruit thought that Pai Din One was acting clumsily like the last time, tricking him into going to Duan Xueqing's side, and then secretly taking photos for the internet to promote a scandal between him and Duan Xueqing. This would affect his relationship with Fong Beibei, but now that he thought about it carefully, Pai Din One didn't seem to be lying. His anxious and pained expression looked so real. Was Duan Xueqing really in danger? Poplar Fruit furrowed his brows as he thought about it. How could it be? She wasn't an ordinary person. Poplar Fruit had been to Duan Xueqing's house. Even if he wasn't the richest person in her hometown, he was close to it. It was such a big manor with professional security. How could she be in danger? Turning around, Poplar Fruit glanced at Fong Beibei, who was sleeping soundly. He gently reached out and stroked Fong Beibei's smooth and soft shoulders that were exposed to the air. He pulled up the blanket and covered her with it. Poplar Fruit's lips curved into a warm smile. He thought to himself, "Don't think too much. The world is so beautiful. How could there be so many dirty things?" The next day, after hosting the first opening ceremony for the children in Litong County, Poplar Fruit happily sent Uncle Gene out of the small hall. Of course, there were many leaders and teachers around them, but Poplar Fruit was pulled by Uncle Gene to walk in the middle. His eyes inadvertently fell on a tree not far away, and he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Luckily, he was a genius who could multitask. For a moment, he didn't show it on his face. He still listened carefully to Uncle Gene and the leaders beside him, nodding from time to time to respond. However, after sending them off, Poplar Fruit didn't return to the venue. Instead, he went straight to the tree where he saw Pai Din One. Poplar Fruit came over aggressively, but before he could say anything, Pai Din One said anxiously, "Poplar Fruit, you have to believe me. Someone's really trying to harm Xiao Qing." His clothes were the same as yesterday, but they looked a little dirty. She wondered if it was because Yanghua had pressed him to the ground and kicked him yesterday. Yanghua turned a deaf ear and pointed at the school gate, coldly saying, "Scram." "Poplar Fruit, listen to me." Pai Din One was anxious. He had waited for Poplar Fruit in this school for a day and a night. He could even wait longer, but time was running out. Don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to you. Poplar Fruit snorted. Don't show up again. I'm telling you, my patience is limited. This was a warning. The next time Pai Din 1 appeared and affected his normal life, Poplar Fruit didn't doubt that he would be ruthless. After saying that, Poplar Fruit turned and left, leaving Pai Din 1 there shouting, Poplar Fruit, don't go. Only you can save Xiao Qing. The person who harmed Xiao Qing is the same person who asked me to frame you. His name is Li Zichao. Pai Din 1 shouted in despair. Just as Poplar Fruit was about to walk out of sight, he suddenly heard Pai Din 1's last sentence. He stopped, turned around, and walked towards Pai Din 1. He grabbed his collar and looked at him with red eyes. What did you say? Say it again. I said, only you can save Xiao Qing. Pai Din 1 was trembling. He could still feel the pain from Poplar Fruit's beating yesterday. I'm asking about what you just said. Poplar Fruit gritted his teeth and asked. Li Zichao. His name is Li Zichao. Pai Din 1 said this name with a trace of hatred. Li Zichao. That person is actually Li Zichao? Poplar Fruit's head roared. He finally connected everything together. Because he helped Zheng Yuji get rid of Li Zichao, he had always held a grudge in his heart. First, he made a move on his family's business. Because Zheng Yuji found someone to obstruct him, Li Zichao left resentfully. Poplar Fruit thought that Li Zichao had given up after not making a move for so long. However, he was a loss. All kinds of slander on the internet were aimed at him, at his friends, and even at Fong Bei. From the beginning of Bali Fashion Week, it had continued. It had continuously brought endless trouble to him. It turned out that it was all because of Li Zichao. It was ridiculous. At that time, he thought that it was the internet pusher named Qin Shui in front of him and Fong Bei's ex-boyfriend behind him. It turned out that there was a Li Zichao behind all of them. Although Qin Shui was caught and he killed Gan Juanji, Li Zichao, the mastermind behind the scenes, hadn't been dealt with yet. Until now, Poplar Fruit still felt that the series of actions on the internet were all done by the same person. However, Poplar Fruit couldn't be blamed. Who asked the methods of this series of events to be the same? When Pai Din 1 said the name Li Zichao, Poplar Fruit believed 80% of it. However, he believed that the person behind it was indeed Li Zichao. As for Pai Din 1's words, Poplar Fruit was still skeptical. You said that Li Zichao wanted to make a move on Xueqing? Poplar Fruit asked. How could it be? Xueqing has no grievances with him. I'm the one who has a grievance. I don't know either, but that's what my friend told me. Pai Din 1 was a little confused, but he looked at Poplar Fruit and said, I suspect that he wants to take revenge on you by dealing with Xiao Qing. Poplar Fruit frowned. He took out his phone and dialed Duan Xueqing's number. It didn't ring for long before the phone was connected. Hello? It was a cold voice, but it was a little lower. Poplar Fruit felt a little sorry for his sister. It was because of this man in front of him that she became more and more autistic. Poplar Fruit didn't consider that he was also at fault. Xueqing, are you home? Poplar Fruit asked. Pai Din 1 looked at him with some desire in his eyes. Yes, I'm at home. Her answer was still short. It's good that you're home. You have to be careful at home and don't run around. There's still a lot of bad people these days. Poplar Fruit exhorted. He even glanced at Pai Din 1 before hanging up the phone. See? She's fine. Poplar Fruit snorted and said, Don't try to trick me again. Am I stupid? Xueqing is at home and has her family protecting her. Does she need a weak scholar like me to protect her? Don't think that I don't know what you're planning. Although it was a little exaggerated for him to say that he was a weak scholar, Poplar Fruit felt that from any angle, if Pai Din 1 really wanted to protect Duan Xueqing, it would be better to tell the Duan family directly than to ask for his help. As for Pai Din 1, who had a criminal record, Poplar Fruit trusted his own judgment more. Pai Din 1 was in despair. He pulled on Poplar Fruit's sleeve and even begged to kneel down in front of Poplar Fruit. He said sadly, I'm not lying to you. Really, you have to believe me. I'm very busy. Poplar Fruit pushed Pai Din 1's hand away impatiently. He pointed at his nose and said, I'm telling you, don't come looking for me. I'll beat you to death, really. Ever since he graduated from primary school, and stop being a wild child. Poplar Fruit hadn't said such harsh words. Chapter 983. The next morning, Pai Din 1 left. He left a small note with his phone number on it. His face was full of disappointment, or even more seriously, despair. Poplar Fruit glanced at the note Pai Din 1 left on his desk. He shook his head and threw the note into the trash can. However, for some reason, the appearance of Pai Din 1 made Poplar Fruit feel a little uneasy. However, in the afternoon, Poplar Fruit called Duan Xueqing again. After confirming that she was safe, he was relieved. However, in the middle of the night, the sudden ringing of the mobile phone broke the silence in the bedroom. Poplar Fruit forgot to take the mobile phone from the study. Fong Bei was awakened by the ringing. She took the mobile phone and went downstairs while rubbing her eyes. After the door of the study was pushed open, the bright light was very dazzling. Poplar Fruit was sitting in front of the desk, typing on the keyboard attentively. "Uncle, your phone." Fong Bei was wearing loose pajamas. Her hair was loose, and she patted her mouth and yawned. Poplar Fruit liked her lazy appearance. Poplar Fruit pulled Fong Bei to sit in his arms. Her head leaned on Poplar Fruit's chest like a kitten. She hid her small hands in Poplar Fruit's warm arms and blinked sleepily. "Who's calling?" "It's the middle of the night." Poplar Fruit asked in confusion. At this time, the ringing stopped. "I don't know. There's no contact name." Fong Bei was hugged by Poplar Fruit's big arms. She was so comfortable that she moaned. She was still half asleep. "Why didn't you take the phone down? You almost woke Kiki up." "Who would have thought that someone would call me in the middle of the night?" Poplar Fruit smiled. He found a number that just called and dialed it back. He was not afraid that Fong Bei was here. If he was honest, there was nothing to be afraid of. "Hello." The phone was connected. Before Poplar Fruit could say anything, he heard an anxious voice on the other side of the phone. "Who are you?" "Who am I? Weren't you the one who called me just now? Who are you?" Poplar Fruit was confused. "I called you?" "Wait." Poplar Fruit did not know what the person was looking for, but he could hear the noise on the other side of the phone. This made Yonghua feel a bit strange. It was already the middle of the night, so why was it so noisy? It couldn't be that he had made a call overseas, right? That was impossible. Before Poplar Fruit could think too much, the person on the other side of the phone finally remembered. He said, "Poplar Fruit." "Yes, you're Poplar Fruit, right? You are my little sister's classmate." "I am Poplar Fruit. But who is your little sister?" Poplar Fruit asked in confusion. Fong Bei also raised her head, opened her eyes, and pricked up her ears to listen. "Xiaoqing. I am Duan Xueqing's brother, Duan Yongfeng." Duan Yongfeng said anxiously, "I heard from my wife that you are my little sister's good friend. Is Xiaoqing with you now?" After comparing the name of Duan Xueqing's sister-in-law, Poplar Fruit knew that he was not lying. Poplar Fruit's heart skipped a beat. He said, "She is not with me. When I talked to her on the phone this afternoon, I didn't hear her say that she was going to come to my place." "Brother Duan, what happened?" Duan Yongfeng sighed and said, "Xiaoqing went out this afternoon and didn't come back. Our family sent people to look for her all night, but we still can't find her." Poplar Fruit's pupils constricted. "That's right. You said that you talked to Xueqing on the phone this afternoon?" Duan Yongfeng wanted to grasp every possible detail. He was burning with anxiety and spoke a lot faster. "Quick, tell me when you called." "In the afternoon. It should be around 4 o'clock." Poplar Fruit frowned and said, "I asked Xueqing at that time. She said that she was at home. I also told her not to run around and to stay at home. She went out at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She went to the store, but there was no one there. The door was still open." Duan Yongfeng shouted anxiously, "Why did Duan Xueqing lie to me? If she wasn't at home, why would she say that she was at home?" Poplar Fruit was confused. "Poplar Fruit, do you know something? Don't hide it from me." Duan Yongfeng finally reacted to Poplar Fruit's words. He seemed to have grabbed onto a life-saving straw and shouted, "I did receive some bad news. It said that someone wanted to harm Xueqing, but the person who told me the news was Pai Din 1. I don't dare to believe him. Is Xueqing really missing now?" Poplar Fruit still couldn't believe this fact, because he had called Duan Xueqing. At that time, she was still fine. You should have told us. Duan Yongfeng was flustered and exasperated. Whether it's true or not, we should be the ones to judge. Poplar Fruit felt a little guilty, but at this time, it had already happened. It was not the time to regret. You should think about how to solve this problem. Big Brother Duan, I'm really sorry. I didn't think it through. Can you get through to her phone now? Poplar Fruit asked. Hurry up and call the police. I think this is very unusual. Call the police? We are now asking the police to help us find her. Duan Yongfeng shouted in exasperation. Let me tell you, Poplar Fruit, if anything happens to our Xiaoqing, I will be the first to not let you off. Poplar Fruit smiled bitterly. He was also worried and guilty in his heart. He said, Big Brother Duan, let's not talk about this first. I will go to Jiangnan tonight and help you find her. After hanging up the phone, Poplar Fruit looked at Fong Beibei, who had sat up in his arms and was looking at him with a worried expression. What happened? Fong Beibei grabbed Poplar Fruit's clothes and asked nervously, Where are you going? Poplar Fruit no longer held back. He told Fong Beibei the whole story and said regretfully, It's all because I was too stupid. If I had believed Pai Din won, nothing would have happened to Xueqing. So now, I have to go to Jiangnan to save Xueqing. Fong Beibei was worried about him. However, she couldn't stop Poplar Fruit. She could only hold Poplar Fruit's hand in confusion and worry. Poplar Fruit held Fong Beibei's face and gently rubbed her cheeks with his thumb. He comforted her. I have to go to Jiangnan now tonight. Even if it's not for Xueqing, I have to settle things with that Lisa Chow. Otherwise, what if he targets you next time? But I don't want anything to happen to you. Fong Beibei's tears fell. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Poplar Fruit comforted her. He suddenly frowned and held Fong Beibei's hand. Baby, I'm still worried about you. You and Kiki have to stay at home for the next few days. Don't run around. I'll get in lawn. I'll get Big Brother he to arrange for another person to protect you. Fong Beibei opened her mouth in shock. She gradually realized the seriousness of the matter. Baby, trust me, I'll definitely take care of everything. Then, I'll make sure everyone is safe. Nothing will happen. Poplar Fruit kissed Fong Beibei's hand and said firmly. Fong Beibei suddenly felt useless. She could only cry and hug Poplar Fruit tightly as she nodded helplessly. Chapter 984. Poplar Fruit couldn't wait for the next day. At around 2 o'clock in the morning, he drove the Land Rover on the dark highway. He wanted to rush to Jiangnan overnight. Poplar Fruit really took this matter seriously this time. He looked for Big Brother he overnight and asked him to find someone to protect Fong Beibei and Kiki. He also informed Zheng Yujie to be careful. Lisa Chow wasn't easy to deal with. Poplar Fruit was worried that this was a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain. With the special forces protecting the most important people in his heart, he could go to Jiangnan without worry. Poplar Fruit felt very guilty about Duan Xueqing's sudden disappearance. He even blamed himself for this matter. Wasn't it? This matter started because of him, and because of his carelessness, Duan Xueqing wasn't protected. If it wasn't Poplar Fruit's fault, who else could it be? Poplar Fruit stepped on the accelerator and kept the car at the highest speed. Other than refueling once in the middle of the road, he kept driving without stopping. In the middle of this, he kept making calls to Big Brother he, to Chen Amlin, and most importantly, to Pai Din 1. Although Poplar Fruit threw away Pai Din 1's note, Poplar Fruit remembered his phone number after glancing at it. Hello, Poplar Fruit? Pai Din 1 was probably half asleep, but he immediately knew who was calling him, because only Poplar Fruit knew his new phone number. Where are you? Poplar Fruit asked anxiously. Xueqing is missing. Pai Din 1 was stunned. He stood on the other end of the phone for a long time. When Poplar Fruit urged him, he actually started crying. Frowning, Yang Guo was a bit impatient. He believed that a man should have a bit of responsibility. What was the use of crying? At around 9 o'clock in the morning, Poplar Fruit finally arrived in Jiangnan. He didn't rush to the Duan family's house. Instead, he rushed to a food stall hidden in the city. Poplar Fruit walked in and saw Pai Din 1 with red eyes. Ignoring the strange gazes of the people around him, Poplar Fruit went over and grabbed Pai Din 1's collar. He lifted him up and said, Hey, cheer up. things haven't reached the worst yet. Pai Din 1 was in a daze. He drooped his head as if he had nothing left to live for. Xueqing just went missing yesterday. Poplar Fruit looked around and pulled him to a quiet corner. He advised, "We still have a chance to save her. You don't understand. You don't know how perverted that Li guy is." Pai Din 1 said weakly at first, but later on, he found strength from somewhere and pushed Poplar Fruit's hand away. He pointed at his crippled left leg and said with some grief and indignation, "My leg was broken by his order. If Xueqing fell into his hands, would she be better off than me?" From Pai Din 1's trembling narration, Poplar Fruit finally understood the truth of his disappearance. It turned out that Pai Din 1 didn't leave on his own. Although he always knew that he couldn't stay by Duan Xueqing's side, and that as a spy, his departure was only a matter of time. However, because he couldn't bear to leave, after Pai Din 1 returned to China, he stayed by Duan Xueqing's side for a week. Then, he was taken away by the rich second-generation friend behind him. "You were betrayed by your friend?" Poplar Fruit asked in surprise. Pai Din 1 smiled bitterly. He shook his head and said, "No, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have just lost a leg. That Li guy wanted to kill me at first, but my friend hid me by breaking my leg." The twists and turns in his story couldn't be described with words. At this moment, from Pai Din 1's slightly aged face and thin body, Poplar Fruit could faintly tell that he had suffered a lot in the past. Of course, Poplar Fruit didn't sympathize with him. He only silently said in his heart, "Serves you right. If Pai Din 1 hadn't gotten involved, how could he have fallen into such a situation? How did you get the news from before?" Poplar Fruit was silent for a moment before asking. Pai Din 1 was silent for a moment before saying, "My friend told me." Poplar Fruit frowned and asked, "Then why didn't you ask your friend for help? He's so rich. Compared to me alone, wouldn't he be able to protect Xueqing better?" Pai Din 1 said sadly, "He can't. That Li guy's background is too powerful. He can't afford to offend him. Not only that, in order not to implicate him, I already left his place and cut off contact with him." Pai Din 1 said with a bitter smile, "Then does he know where Xueqing is?" Poplar Fruit felt that he had found a breakthrough. However, to his disappointment, Pai Din 1 shook his head and said, "No, Li Zichao didn't go through my friend. He sent someone over, but at that time, he hadn't taken action yet. My friend has only heard a little about it. In fact, Li Zichao didn't trust anyone else. This time, he first sent a few of his bodyguards and hired thugs over. Once he caught the Duan Xueqing, he would come over from the capital. There was no other way. Li Zichao couldn't run out in advance. Otherwise, his father would definitely be furious and capture him. Then, he would die before he could succeed." Poplar Fruit was silent for a moment. Then, he pulled Pai Din 1's clothes and dragged him out. However, seeing Poplar Fruit's actions, the stall's workers grabbed chairs and blocked the door. Their eyes were filled with hostility. Poplar Fruit snorted and gently moved his legs. Did they want to block Poplar Fruit's footsteps with such a small group of people? Perhaps Poplar Fruit would kill his way out like in the movies. "Wait, wait!" Pai Din 1 hurriedly shouted, "Don't do it, Uncle Nyo. I'm fine. I'm going out with my friend. There's something I need to deal with." The stall's workers stopped. The fat man who came out of the kitchen with a machete looked at Poplar Fruit suspiciously, as if he suspected that Poplar Fruit had forced Pai Din 1 to say that. Poplar Fruit didn't appreciate it. He sneered and said, "Who's your friend?" The fat man was even more suspicious. He was about to raise his machete. Pai Din 1 smiled bitterly. He waved his hand at the fat man with the machete and said, "Uncle Nyo, it's really nothing." In the end, Poplar Fruit took Pai Din 1 away safely. He let Pai Din 1 sit in the front passenger seat and didn't restrict him. Poplar Fruit didn't believe that he could run away from him. Of course, Pai Din 1 didn't plan to run away either. He was silent for a while, then asked, "Poplar Fruit, where are we going?" "The Duan family." Poplar Fruit answered after a while. He didn't even look at Pai Din 1. Pai Din 1 trembled, but he didn't say anything. He was afraid of the Duan family from the bottom of his heart. It was because he had wronged Duan Xueqing and didn't know how to face her family. Chapter 985. On the road, Poplar Fruit's cell phone suddenly rang. He took it out and looked at the screen. Suddenly, Poplar Fruit slammed on the brakes. Luckily, there were fewer cars on the road, and there were no cars following behind Poplar Fruit. Otherwise, there would have been a rear-end collision. Xiueqing is calling. Poplar Fruit opened his eyes wide and said in surprise. Although he found it hard to believe, Duan Xiueqing's name was indeed displayed on the screen of his cell phone. Xiaoqing. Pai Din-1 was shocked by the sudden breaking, but when he heard Poplar Fruit's voice, he immediately turned his head. Poplar Fruit didn't have time to park the car on the side. He pulled the handbrake and quickly answered the call. Xiueqing, where did you go? Poplar Fruit asked in surprise. Why is your phone switched off? Poplar Fruit was still thinking that Duan Xiueqing was in a bad mood and didn't know where to hide to think about life, and that she wasn't really caught. If it was really a false alarm, then Poplar Fruit's wasted trip would have been worth it. But on the other end of the phone, a sinister voice shattered Poplar Fruit's imagination. Yo, yo, yo. Poplar Fruit, love saint, you still care about this chick. How could Poplar Fruit forget this voice? It was Lisa Chow, who looked serious, but was secretly up to no good. Yang's heart sank. His expression was like a storm that was about to blow. It was gloomy, brewing, and was about to erupt. Pai Din-1 pricked up his ears, but he couldn't hear the voice on the phone. But from Poplar Fruit's expression, he could tell that it wasn't good news. All the reports said that you were decent, that you were low-key, and that you were a loyal man. Lisa Chow said sarcastically. Now it seems that they were all wrong, right? Love saint? How many women have you had? Zheng Yujia, Fong Beibei, and this Duan Xiueqing? Ha 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 ha. Poplar Fruit took a deep breath, and his hands grabbed the steering wheel. He couldn't help but squeeze the steering wheel so hard that it made a screeching sound. He was afraid that if he took off the steering wheel cover, there would be fingerprints on the inside. Poplar Fruit was trying his best to restrain himself from tearing the Land Rover apart. Lee, Poplar Fruit said, gritted his teeth. What do you want? Yo, do you still remember me? At this moment, Lisa Chow was in a very good mood, as if there was no longer a haze of having to flee abroad. It seems that I still have some weight to you, ha ha ha. Lisa Chow, if you have the ability, come at me. What kind of man are you to bully a girl? Poplar Fruit roared. His voice echoed in the car, and Pai Din-1's ears were buzzing. Hey, you're in a hurry. Aren't you always acting like some bullshit master, and don't take others seriously? Lisa Chow was in a good mood, as if he had been constipated for more than a year. Come, let me show you a video. Lisa Chow suddenly hung up the phone, and then a video was sent to him. Poplar Fruit frowned and clicked on the video. Pai Din-1 also came over to watch. Poplar Fruit looked at him with a dark face, but he didn't stop him. The video wasn't long, but Poplar Fruit could see that Duan Xiueqing was tied to a chair in a spacious warehouse. The camera quickly turned, and Poplar Fruit saw a few tall men in black. Then, Lisa Chow's face appeared. Xiaoqing. When Pai Din-1 saw Duan Xiueqing, he couldn't help but shout. His face was full of pain, as if he felt the same pain as Duan Xiueqing. Poplar Fruit picked up the phone and dialed back. Lisa Chow's voice came through. See? Hey, you little cold girl, you've fallen into my hands. Poplar Fruit took a deep breath, but he couldn't suppress the anger in his heart. His voice couldn't calm down as he asked, What do you want? What do I want? Lisa Chow laughed again. That depends on how you feel. Poplar Fruit knitted his brows and clenched his fists. Let her go, and I'll be at your mercy. Yo-yo, a hero saving a damsel in distress, sacrificing himself for others. I'm so touched. Lisa Chow said eccentrically. TSK, TSK, TSK. Lisa Chow shouted for a while before he said proudly, Sure, come over to Jiangnan, and I'll let you exchange one person for one person. Okay, Poplar Fruit agreed. Tell me, where are you right now? I'll immediately come over from Yangcheng City. Hee, do you think I'm stupid? Lisa Chow harumphed. I'll tell you the location, and you'll look for that bitch Zheng Yujia to save her. I'll do it alone. Poplar Fruit clenched his teeth and said, That's the right attitude. Lisa Chow nodded his head in satisfaction and said, But it doesn't matter. You can find anyone. Poplar Fruit was stunned for a moment. But Li Zichao chuckled as he continued. You know how powerful my family is. If I get any news that you called the police or that Zhang Yujia has sent someone to warn me, I'll be dead. I can clearly tell you that this little cold girl, you can forget about bringing her back in a clean and complete state. Ha 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 ha. Poplar Fruit was silent as he endured the anger that was about to erupt. He clenched his teeth and said word by word, I want to hear her speak. TSK, TSK, TSK. You don't believe me, right? Li Zichao sneered and said, Okay, you listen to her. No one knew what was going on over there. Perhaps it was the cloth that was covering Duan Shiueching's mouth. But there were a few sounds of resistance and screams. Li Zichao chuckled. You want to commit suicide by biting your tongue? No way. Let me die. Duan Shiueching's voice was very muffled. She was extremely tired, but still cold and emotionless. Poplar Fruit pictured Duan Shiueching being held by Li Zichao in his mind. Not only him, but Pai Dinwan's eyes were bloodshot, and he wanted to pounce and scream. Poplar Fruit covered Pai Dinwan's mouth and pushed it back. You're such a boring woman. I haven't fucked you yet. Li Zichao scolded as he stuffed Duan Shiueching's mouth with the cloth again. Have you finished listening? If you have, hurry up and come to Jiangnan. Li Zichao chuckled and said, When you come, I will naturally give you the address. Poplar Fruit took a deep breath, calmed down, and said, Okay, as long as you don't touch her, I promise you that you can do whatever you want with me. You're a real man. Li Zichao praised him hypocritically and said proudly, Don't worry, before you come, I won't touch a single hair of hers. But I will only give you half a day. If I don't see you by 12 o'clock tonight, you will never see this cold girl again. Li Zichao hung up the phone after he finished speaking, leaving only the cold beeping sound. Chapter 986. Why did you lie? After Poplar Fruit hung up the phone, the previously submissive Pai Dinwan actually flew into a rage at Poplar Fruit. Aren't you already here? Why did you tell him you were still in Yangcheng? Why didn't you immediately go and save Shaoqing? In his anger, Pai Dinwan actually wanted to snatch the phone from Poplar Fruit's hands. Was he trying to rebel against him? Yang Guo was annoyed. First, he pushed Bai Tingyuan back. Then, he stretched out his arms and pulled Bai Tingyuan over by his collar. Then, he ruthlessly slapped Bai Tingyuan twice to wake him up. You need to be clear about who's the boss right now and who's giving orders. Poplar Fruit frowned and pointed at Pai Dinwan. But have you ever thought that if you're a second late, Shaoqing will suffer for a second longer? Pai Dinwan was actually very stubborn as he raised his head and said unyieldingly. At this moment, Poplar Fruit was the first to soften. He patted Pai Dinwan's shoulder and said, Don't worry, she's still fine. Originally, Poplar Fruit didn't need to be long-winded with Pai Dinwan, nor did he need to explain his thoughts to him. However, when he saw Pai Dinwan's face with a palm print and the same stubbornness as Duan Shiueching, he still patiently analyzed the situation. This Li Zichao kidnapped Shiueching mainly to deal with me. In order to give me the greatest humiliation, he definitely won't do anything to Shiueching before I arrive. Poplar Fruit analyzed. Only in front of me will he feel relieved. He won't waste so much effort and just walk away. We can't go over directly, or else we'll really fall into his trap. Also, if I tell him that I'm already in Jiangnan, wouldn't that alert him and let him know that I already knew about his plan? Wouldn't that anger him and make him do something even crazier? Poplar Fruit said, Our top priority is to find the location where this video was taken, find Li Zichao's whereabouts, and then rescue Shiueching. Poplar Fruit said, There's still time, let's move. At this moment, Poplar Fruit's EQ and IQ were off the charts. His analysis of Li Zichao wasn't wrong at all. Li Zichao wanted to humiliate Poplar Fruit in front of Poplar Fruit. In order to succeed, not only did he sneak out of Beijing, he even meticulously set up a huge scene to wait for Poplar Fruit. As for Duan Shiueching, although he was tempted, he still felt that it wasn't worth it. It wasn't like he hadn't seen beauties before. Then what should we do? Pai Dinwan asked. You're asking me what to do? Poplar Fruit asked angrily. Aren't you a local? Hurry up and help me identify which warehouse this video was taken from. I can't recognize it. All warehouses look like this. Paiden 1 took Poplar Fruit's phone and seriously watched the video a few times. He shook his head and said dejectedly. Poplar Fruit frowned and took the phone. He looked at it for a long time and realized that he really couldn't find any clues. He could only see Lisa Chow and at least 4 men in black surrounding him. Their bodies were bulging, and he didn't know if they had any weapons. Why don't we ask the Duan family for help? Paiden 1 asked expectantly. Aren't we going to the Duan family? If we ask the Duan family for help, her family is very powerful here. Send people out and do a carpet search. We'll definitely be able to find them if we search every warehouse. Are you stupid? Poplar Fruit looked at him speechlessly and said, let's not talk about a carpet search. Even if they make a few calls and Lisa Chow finds out, will Xueqing still be alive? Poplar Fruit's mind became clearer and clearer. He said, right now, we can't go to the Duan family, and we can't let the Duan family know about this situation, because the Duan family has already called the police. As long as the police are involved, we won't be able to protect Xueqing's safety. You also said that Lisa Chow has a strong background in Jiangnan. Paiden 1 quickly nodded. For this matter, we can only rely on ourselves. Poplar Fruit restarted the car and said seriously, let's go back to your food stall and think of a countermeasure. Your friend should be reliable, right? Uncle Neo was my father's good friend when he was alive. Paiden 1 nodded and said, in fact, Poplar Fruit didn't need to do it alone. At noon, reinforcements had already arrived. Big Brother Yang, Big Brother Meng. Poplar Fruit was pleasantly surprised to see He Wenjue and a few people appear in front of him like divine soldiers descending from the sky. Poplar Fruit, I can't let you take the risk alone. He Wenjue smiled and patted Poplar Fruit's shoulder. He said, so, after receiving your call, I rushed over. In fact, He Wenjue wasn't worried about Poplar Fruit's strength. He was worried that Poplar Fruit would be too reckless and hurt himself or others. Poplar Fruit's kung fu was so powerful that he could beat a Muay Thai expert to death in a few seconds with his bare hands. That was more than a year ago. Poplar Fruit's current strength was much stronger. So, He Wenjue was worried that Poplar Fruit would make a ruckus out of desperation. So he quickly brought 2 people to help. After all, they were professionals in saving lives. As long as no one died, He Wenjue was confident that he could help Poplar Fruit deal with the aftermath. He Wenjue said, this is Huang Yongning, the captain of the SWAT team in the Jiangnan military region. He is also my former comrade. I trust him, so I asked him to help today. Poplar Fruit frowned and pulled He Wenjue to the side. He explained the situation to him and said, Big Brother, our situation is like this. It's not good to make a big fuss. If Lisa Chow finds out, my junior sister will be dead. Don't worry. He Wenjue smiled and said, I've already thought about it. The Li family is very powerful in Jiangnan, so I can only find people I trust to help. Old Huang and I have been through life and death together, so he won't leak the secret. Moreover, there are only a few people in action today. The 2 people Old Huang brought are also our own people. Big Brother Huang, I'm sorry. I was worried, so I misunderstood you just now. Poplar Fruit said, a little embarrassed. Huang Yongning was not wearing his uniform now, probably because he was worried that the secret would be leaked. He smiled and said, it's okay. This is a serious matter, so we have to be careful. What's the situation now? Can you tell me about it? They found a room in the food stall. Poplar Fruit and the others sat around. Paiden 1 couldn't sit, so he could only stand aside. Poplar Fruit took out a video and sent it to the computer provided by Uncle Neo. He told them about the current progress. Huang Yongning and He Wenjue both took the computer and watched the video several times. In the end, they both shook their heads and said, the video is too short. We can't see anything. Poplar Fruit was a little disappointed, but fortunately, this was also expected. It seems that you have to call him and lure him to tell us the specific location. Huang Yongning thought for a while and said, Chapter 987. After the discussion, Poplar Fruit followed Huang Yongning's instructions and called Duan Shueching. I'm now in Jiangnan. Where are you? Tell me, I want to go there. Poplar Fruit said in a deep voice. You're quite fast. It seems that our great Casanova is very worried about your little lover. Li Zichao's sarcastic voice made Poplar Fruit frown. He glanced at Pai Dinwan. Pai Dinwan could hear Li Zichao's words. Pai Dinwan's expression was very interesting. He was jealous, but he didn't dare to be jealous. He didn't know how to express his grievances, so he could only lower his head and suffer alone. You're not talking? Are you angry? Don't be like this. Li Zichao pretended to persuade her. You little cold girl, I didn't even move a finger when you were with me. If it wasn't for her seeking death, I was planning to treat you well. Address. Poplar Fruit said coldly. Li Zichao, you want me, right? If you have the guts, let's fight one-on-one later. What kind of man are you to bully a girl? After talking to Li Zichao for a while, Poplar Fruit finally got the address and hung up the phone. A SWAT member had already found the location on the map. He said, it's in the south of the city, about 16 kilometers away from here. We can get there in less than half an hour. Huang Yongning took the computer and pointed at the enlarged satellite image. After looking at it for a while, he said, this is a warehouse area, but there's only one road to enter. If I'm not wrong, they must have installed cameras or sent people to watch the entrance of this road. Except for Yang, we can't drive indirectly. Our advantage is that they still have a wrong judgment about Yang. So, we can get out of the car here. Except for Yang, we can all climb in from the outside and surround this warehouse from 4 directions. Huang Yongning raised 2 fingers and pointed at the warehouse Li Zichao mentioned on the map. From the previous video, there are a lot of thugs inside. Even if they are not retired soldiers, they are still dangerous people. He Wenjua patted Huang Yongning's shoulder and said, so, I suggest that everyone be mentally prepared for a tough battle. Shaoli, you can hide in the trunk of Xiao Yang's car and go in with him. Huang Yongning suddenly had an idea. He looked at a strong young man next to him and said, Yang, wait for an opportunity to go in and protect Yang. Yes. Shaoli cracked his knuckles, put his legs together, and answered seriously. He Wenjua and Meng Sanhua couldn't help but laugh after hearing this. What's wrong? Huang Yongning and He Wenjua were comrades who had gone through life and death situations together. He knew that Wenjua was not laughing at him on purpose. You still want to protect Poplar Fruit? It's good enough that he doesn't protect us. He Wenjua shook his head and laughed. Is Yang very strong? Was he in the army? Huang Yongning looked at Poplar Fruit in surprise and asked. He felt that Poplar Fruit did not look like he was in the army. Because he was in the army, he naturally had a strong sense of discipline. No, Poplar Fruit shook his head and laughed. He was not in the mood to laugh. He was worried. He is not in the army, but in this room, pick any one of us and no one can beat him. He Wenjua said with a smile. Meng Sanhua added, maybe even the 6 of us together can't beat him. He's that strong? Huang Yongning was really surprised because he knew Meng Sanhua. He was this year's kickboxing champion. He was said to be good at kung fu. He was proud of his skills and would not admit defeat to anyone. Now, Meng Sanhua clearly said that he could not beat Poplar Fruit. This showed how strong Poplar Fruit was. He went to a thought for a while and said, "We can follow Poplar Fruit in the car, but your mission is to guard the exit. Otherwise, if they escape or something happens, you will be responsible for a surprise attack when they take the hostages away. Of course, you have to be careful not to be discovered." Shaoli nodded. The plan was complete. There was no time to lose. They had to leave now. Poplar Fruit looked at Pai Dinwan and said, "Do you want to stay here?" Pai Dinwan was useless as a cripple. Compared to 2 days ago, Poplar Fruit's tone towards Pai Dinwan was much better. Pai Dinwan had not rested well since yesterday. He was a little tired, but he still shook his head firmly and said, "I want to go." Poplar Fruit understood Pai Dinwan's thoughts. Didn't he want to see Duan Shueching be rescued as soon as possible? Poplar Fruit could not help but mock him again. "I advise you not to have too much hope. Shueching will not forgive you. Who told you to lie to her? To take advantage of her feelings?" Pai Dinwan was sad. After a moment of silence, he said, "I just want to see her safe and sound." Seeing him like this, Poplar Fruit could not bear to continue talking. He turned his head and got into the car. When they arrived at the rendezvous point, Huang Yongning did the final analysis of the mission and the general mobilization. He took a bulletproof vest from his car and put it on Poplar Fruit. Not only that, Yang Jingdong took out a black pistol from his holster and handed it to Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit nodded gratefully. He skillfully put it on his back and was about to pull his shirt to cover it. Oh, wait a minute. Huang Yongning pulled Poplar Fruit in surprise. He looked at He Wenjue and asked, "Why did you give him a gun? Do you know if the people inside have weapons?" He Wenjue asked. "With a gun in hand, he can deal with some extremely bad situations. Don't worry, Poplar Fruit is good at shooting." Huang Yongning shook his head and said, No, you can bring guns, but Yang can't. He shot at the wrong place. How can he kill someone? He can't be included in the fighting sequence. With our protection, you will be fine. Also, I want to give you a reminder, Huang Yongning said seriously. Today's operation must be done cleanly. If the situation is critical, you can shoot, but you can't kill anyone. Also, Li Zichao, we can't hurt him. Why? Poplar Fruit and Pai Din 1 asked at the same time. Li Zichao was the mastermind, causing Duan Xueqing to suffer so much. Poplar Fruit even wanted to go in and shoot him. Why? Huang Yongning smiled bitterly. Because he is Li Zichao. Although the Li family doesn't have much power here, his grandfather has a student who is our senior official. He is very protective. Huang Yongning sighed and said, "If we were just saving people, we would be in the right and nothing would happen. But if we hurt Li Zichao, or something happens to him, all of us will have to bear the consequences. Not only can we not hurt him, but in the end, we can't catch him either." Huang Yongning looked at Poplar Fruit and said solemnly. Chapter 988. Poplar Fruit and Pai Din 1 both fell silent after hearing Huang Yongning's words. Huang Yongning smiled bitterly. He knew this would happen. "Give me the gun." Huang Yongning asked Poplar Fruit for the gun and handed it back to Yang Jingdong. It wasn't that he didn't believe He Wenjue. He even believed in Poplar Fruit's shooting skills. However, he was worried that Poplar Fruit wouldn't be able to control himself. It would be troublesome if something unexpected happened. He didn't want to spoil everyone's mood by saying this, but he had no choice. A gun was too difficult to control. If he didn't say it, what if Poplar Fruit accidentally fired and killed Li Zichao? Forget it. Let's save him first. He Wenjue patted Poplar Fruit's shoulder and comforted him. "We'll discuss how to deal with Li Zichao later." Poplar Fruit sighed helplessly and nodded. Meng Sanhua wanted to give Poplar Fruit a military dagger, but Poplar Fruit declined. Since they couldn't kill Li Zichao, what was the point of bringing so many weapons? Moreover, he wasn't used to using a dagger. He might as well fight with his bare hands. Poplar Fruit was about to get into the car when Shaoli pointed at Pai Din 1, who was standing at the side with his head lowered, and asked, "What about him?" Everyone looked at Pai Din 1. They could tell that he wasn't an expert. He would only be a hindrance if he followed them. Pai Din 1 seemed to realize that he was a burden. He looked at everyone and said in a low voice, "I won't go in. I'll watch the car from outside." Huang Yongning nodded and said, "That's good. Later, listen to our orders. If it's done, you can drive the car over." He threw the key to Pai Din 1. Because it was a secret mission, Huang Yongning didn't drive a special police car. That would be too conspicuous. Instead, he drove a Mazda that was almost 10 years old. It looked old. "Can you drive it?" Poplar Fruit asked doubtfully. Pai Din 1's left leg wasn't flexible. Pai Din 1 nodded honestly and said, "I can step on the accelerator and brake. I can." Needless to say, everyone got into position. Other than Xiao Li, who was hiding in Poplar Fruit's trunk, the others climbed into the warehouse from all corners. "Everyone, number 1 is in position." Huang Yongning's voice came from the headset. "Number 2 is in position." Someone else immediately followed. Meng Sanhua's voice came along with a noisy breathing. "Number 3 is in position." "Motherfucker, I just knocked out a sentry. You guys be careful." As expected, Li Zichao's men were quite capable. However, They were the best soldiers and special police in their respective areas. Soon, they took care of the two outposts neatly and quickly got into position. There are about 10 people in there. Number 2, I see 2 on your side, 1 on your left and 1 on your right. Be careful when you break through. He went to a hit on the roof and peeked in. Xiao Yang, it's your turn. You have to distract them so that we can save them. Huang Yoning commanded in a low voice. Okay. Poplar Fruit started the Land Rover and drove out of the bushes where they were hiding. After turning at a crossroad, they finally faced the area where the warehouse was. He drove along the road and dialed Duan Xueqing's phone. I'm almost there. I'm going to the warehouse now. Where are you? Poplar Fruit pretended not to know them to lower their guard. TSK. You're so fast. It's not even dark yet. Seems like the power of love is great. Lisa Chow's disgusting voice came again. Poplar Fruit could only endure it silently. He gritted his teeth and listened to his nonsense for a while before continuing to drive towards the warehouse. As he drove, Poplar Fruit took off his bulletproof vest and threw in the back seat. While waiting, Poplar Fruit thought it through. Instead of exposing himself, people might think that it was a bulletproof vest, and putting Duan Xueqing in danger, it was better to let go of all his restraints and walk in barehanded. I'm going in, Poplar Fruit said as he took off his headset and hid it in the car. When he got out of the car, a burly man wearing sunglasses came out from the side and walked towards Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit held back his anger and let the man pat him. Then he grabbed his collar and pushed him inside. I can walk by myself. Poplar Fruit deliberately struggled, but he didn't use any strength to show weakness. The man in sunglasses sniffed disdainfully and continued to push Poplar Fruit, as if he didn't hear what Poplar Fruit said. The main door of the warehouse was locked, but there was a small door on the side that could be entered. After entering the small door, it suddenly opened up. The front was brightly lit, and it was a sharp contrast to the gradually reddening evening sky outside. As soon as he entered, Poplar Fruit's breathing quickened because he saw Duan Xueqing tied to a chair on a high platform in the middle of the warehouse. Duan Xueqing's clothes were still intact. Seeing this, Poplar Fruit's heart finally calmed down a little. However, she was tied too tightly, and Poplar Fruit was a little worried that she would be hurt. After one day and one night, Duan Xueqing not only looked haggard, but her face was also a little swollen. He didn't know if it was because of Lisa Chow's slaps. Her mouth was stuffed with a large piece of cloth. Seeing her indifferent eyes that didn't have any reluctance towards life and death, Poplar Fruit couldn't help but feel his heart tighten. Xueqing, silly girl, hang in there, Poplar Fruit silently said to Duan Xueqing in his heart. That by guy is still outside. After I save you, I'll let you slap him. Slap him as many times as you want. Clap, clap, clap. A burst of applause brought Poplar Fruit back to reality. He saw Li Zichao clapping his hands and appearing at the front of the high platform. His feminine face didn't change, but it was paler than before. You're finally here. Li Zichao smiled proudly. Although Poplar Fruit could quickly get rid of the Duan Xueqing and reach Duan Xueqing's side before Li Zichao did, Poplar Fruit couldn't make a move. This was because he noticed that behind Duan Xueqing stood a man in a singlet with a knife. He was muscular and didn't look like a simple character. Under the circumstances where he couldn't save Duan Xueqing unscathed, Poplar Fruit could only endure and wait for the best opportunity. I'm here. As if in response to Li Zichao's words, Poplar Fruit's face darkened as he said, I've kept my promise. Let her go. Let who go? Li Zichao pretended to be crazy and asked. A hint of anger flashed across Poplar Fruit's face, and Li Zichao saw it clearly. He said, I've already delivered myself to your door. You should let her go. If you have any grudges, you should come at me. Chapter 989. While he was negotiating with Li Zichao, Poplar Fruit kept looking around with the corner of his eyes. He found that although the warehouse was a bit shabby, it should have been a very useful national warehouse in the past. There were several layers of iron shelves around it, and several bright lights lit up the warehouse like it was daytime. She didn't know where Lisa Chow found so many thugs. There were more than 10 people on the first floor, and there were more on the second and third floors. Every one of them was either tattooed or had a ferocious look on their faces. They were all staring at Yonghua with unkind eyes. Poplar Fruit felt that the biggest threat wasn't these thugs, but the two men in black standing not far from Lisa Chow. They were wearing suits and sunglasses. These two were probably the bodyguards that Lisa Chow brought. Yonghua could feel the iron-blooded aura of Hidage and the others from their bodies. Moreover, under the suits that didn't reveal their talents, there was definitely a beast-like body and fighting spirit. In order to save Duan Xueqing, Poplar Fruit could only pretend to be weak. Although he was stubbornly arguing with Lisa Chow, his body seemed weak and powerless. He was pushed and shoved by the sunglasses man behind him, and he didn't have any strength to fight back. But when would Big Brother he make a move? Without a headset, Poplar Fruit couldn't receive orders from the outside, so he could only swallow his anger and wait. Do you know what I hate the most about you? Lisa Chow suddenly jumped down from the high platform, and one of the men in black subconsciously moved and followed behind him. Poplar Fruit didn't move. At this moment, his acting skills were on full display. He looked at Lisa Chow with disdain and hatred, but he didn't say anything. It didn't matter. Lisa Chow originally wanted to talk to himself. His two arms waved back and forth as if he was doing stretching exercises, and he said, No, I don't hate you for stealing my fiancé." Lisa Chow shamelessly treated Zheng Yujia as his fiancé, and the fake expression on his face made people want to vomit. However, Poplar Fruit chose to ignore it. It's your always calm expression. At this moment, Lisa Chow suddenly became a little ferocious and a little crazy, as if he had become a schizophrenic. Why? Why do you always act like you don't care? Do you feel a sense of accomplishment for stealing my woman? I spent so much effort to create a scandal about you, and you don't care at all? In fact, Poplar Fruit really didn't listen to his roar very seriously. He was just thinking about whether he should make a move when Lisa Chow approached. It seemed impossible because the man with the knife was standing behind Duan Xueqing. Even if Poplar Fruit made a move, he didn't have the confidence to save Duan Xueqing. They had the Duan Xueqing in their hands, so Poplar Fruit certainly couldn't do anything to Lisa Chow. However, at this moment, a strong force suddenly came from behind. The man in the sunglasses suddenly rushed forward, twisted Poplar Fruit's arm, and held Poplar Fruit up. Of course, Poplar Fruit went easy on him. How could the man in the sunglasses lock Poplar Fruit with his clumsy movements? If Poplar Fruit wanted to hit someone, the moment the man in the sunglasses pounced on him, Poplar Fruit could bounce his leg back and kick him to the ground. Poplar Fruit was very cooperative and raised his head to scream, as if he was in pain from the man in the sunglasses twisting his arm. That's right. You know pain. Lisa Chow proudly shouted. If you don't feel pain, what's the point of me hitting you? Just as he finished speaking, Lisa Chow suddenly took 2 steps forward and gave a standard uppercut to Poplar Fruit's abdomen. At that moment, Poplar Fruit had 2 choices. One was to tighten the muscles in his abdomen. With Lisa Chow's weak strength, it was basically impossible for him to hurt Poplar Fruit. Moreover, there was a possibility that he would be hurt by the rebound of Poplar Fruit's abdominal muscles. Just imagine the feeling of punching a wall. However, Poplar Fruit still chose the second choice. He relaxed his defense and took Lisa Chow's punch. To be honest, it was painful, but not that painful. However, Poplar Fruit still pretended to howl, his face distorted, and when the man in the sunglasses let go, he fell to the ground, holding his stomach and retching. Lisa Chow felt a sense of accomplishment at this moment. Looking at Poplar Fruit being beaten like this by him, he proudly kicked Poplar Fruit's shoulder and said, Hey, aren't you good at pretending? How come hurts? Oh. Duan Xueqing, who had been motionless, finally began to struggle a little. She kept twisting and turning, looking sadly at Poplar Fruit being beaten. She wanted to shout, but the rags stuffed her mouth full. It's not time yet. Poplar Fruit continued to pretend. He anxiously waited, but he didn't know when Big Brother he and the others would make their move. Let her go, and you can do whatever you want to me, Poplar Fruit said in a hoarse voice with difficulty. Lisa Chow was very satisfied with Poplar Fruit's performance. He spread out his hands and smiled. I don't want to do anything to you. I just want to beat you up. What good will it do me? I just want to return the pain you gave me back to you 10 times, 100 times. Lisa Chow suddenly became a little ferocious. Lift him up, Lisa Chow ordered. The man in shades walked up and lifted Poplar Fruit up from the ground. Poplar Fruit was limp as he was lifted up by the man in shades, facing the stage. Lisa Chow walked up and looked at him. He frowned and said, "What are you waiting for? Get him up here too. How can he see from below?" And so, Poplar Fruit was dragged up the stage like a drunkard. At this moment, he was very close to Duan Xueqing, only a few meters away. He could clearly see Duan Xueqing's cold and painful eyes. Lisa Chow felt that he had Poplar Fruit under control. There were so many of his men in the warehouse, and Poplar Fruit was so weak that he was full of confidence. Even if he brought Poplar Fruit up the stage, it would not be a pity. You probably don't know what it means to kill your father and take your wife, right? You will never understand the pain of taking Zheng Yujie away from me. Lisa Chow shouted at Poplar Fruit ferociously. It doesn't matter. I will let you know today. I will let you see today. Finally, it was time for the main event. Lisa Chow's face was as excited as a lunatic. I will let you see. Your woman, I will let you see with your own eyes how I fuck her, and fuck her fiercely in front of you. The pain you gave me in the past, today, I will return it to you tenfold, 100-fold. Lisa Chow was so excited that he was incoherent. Poplar Fruit knew and guessed Lisa Chow's intention, but he still shouted, "No." Poplar Fruit struggled to kneel down. With a painful face, he begged, "Let her go. I have wronged you. You can do whatever you want of me." Poplar Fruit was faking it, but he still revealed his true feelings. Duan Xueqing looked at Poplar Fruit, and finally, there were emotional fluctuations in her eyes. She shed tears and looked sadly at Poplar Fruit, as if saying, "Don't be like this, it's not worth it." That you're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.